Welcome to Blood Moon Publishing.
The moment I saw her, I knew she was mine. A bond that can never be broken.
Chapter 1. Willow's POV. The girls and I piled into the school bus after our final swim meet of the season. I was kind of glad that the season was over. It had been tedious. My small group made its way to the back, where we always sat. For some reason, no one else wanted to sit back there. Marisol took her seat next to me, and I placed my iPod in my ears, zoning out. I was too exhausted to care about anything that was going on around me. Next thing I knew, I heard laughter. I looked up to see what the ruckus was about. A bunch of the others were pressing their faces against the windows, smiling and giggling. I laughed at their behavior. I looked out the window to see what they were getting all worked up about and found a car full of cute guys. I just went back to my iPod, ignoring it. Killian's POV. We were driving down the road, just minding our own business, when we came across a bus filled with girls. They were staring, and it was getting a bit creepy. "Dude, check it out," my brother said with a laugh, pointing up. A bunch of them had their faces on and were squashed against the window. I scowled. Why did human girls have to be so typical? My eyes traveled along the length of the bus while the guys kept waving at the girls. I came upon a beautiful girl with long, wavy brunette hair. She wasn't paying attention, but she had definitely caught my attention. She is the one I heard my inner wolf growl. The one we're meant to protect? I asked my wolf. "Hell yeah, look at her," he replied. I stared for a moment. When I felt my heart begin to flutter, I wanted nothing more than for her to see me. I wanted to bang on the window. I started banging when my hand was stopped. "Dude, calm yourself down. What's gotten you so worked up?" Maeve asked, grabbing my arm. "My destined," I said, staring at her, my hands pressed against the cold window. "What?" Griff yelled, staring at me with wide eyes. "I found her," I whispered. Everyone went silent. "I found mine," Victor murmured, trailing off. "Me too," Silas muttered. Next thing I knew, everybody was saying it, and we were swerving all over the road. I snapped out of my daze and grabbed Gid's shoulder. He looked over at me, and I pointed to the road. He automatically went back to driving safely. At the stoplight, the bus went the other way. My wolf was howling. "What are we going to do?" I questioned. "Nothing. That's all we can do." "It's not like they know we're destined for them. They're humans," Xander replied. "And the only way for them to figure it out is if they touch us. Even then, they wouldn't figure it out. Humans don't know werewolves exist, so they would just think that they felt a strong connection to us. And anyway, they are still in high school, and we don't even know where they live. How is this even going to work?" Maeve asked. I sighed and put my head in my hands. "I don't know." "I need to be near her," I said. "We all do, bro," my brother said, rubbing my back. "Don't stress about it. We'll find them." A magnetic pull tugged at my chest, stronger than anything I'd ever felt. "Turn the car around," I said, my voice thick with an instinct I couldn't control. "We need to figure out where they're going." "Dude, we can't just follow a random bus," Gid warned, glancing in the rearview mirror. "We aren't following them," I said, my alpha authority laced with a sudden, undeniable certainty. "We're just going the same way. Now drive." The car jerked to the side as Gid made a U-turn, and we were behind it. Luckily, nobody noticed that we were in the same car as before. And from where I was, I got a good look at my destined companion. I sighed contentedly as I looked at her the whole time. An hour later, the bus pulled into a school parking lot, and we followed suit, parking next to a bunch of cars so we wouldn't be noticeable. I looked at the school sign and read it. "Major Technological School," I read aloud. Isn't that like 2 towns over from our territory?" "Yeah, it definitely is," Silas confirmed. "Perfect," I said with a smirk as we watched the girls shuffle off. Each of us was watching a different person. And it was just a coincidence that they were all talking in a small group. "Looks like they are all friends," Xander observed, a smile spreading across his face. "Even better," I laughed, and they all looked at me. Sorry, I'm just so excited about this. We found them, guys. They all laughed at my excitement. Man, you sound like a 5-year-old on Christmas. Calm yourself. You sound like an idiot, Maeve chuckled. Don't disrespect your alpha, I growled. Don't use that on me, he retorted, rolling his eyes. So, what are we going to do from here, Mr. Alpha? Xander asked. Enough, I warned him, my tone ending the joke. You guys can do whatever you want. I'm shifting. I need to memorize her scent before it fades. I slipped out of the car, staying out of the girls' view. I heard the guys follow after me. We headed to the tree line. Once we reached the cover of the woods, we transformed into our wolves. We didn't need to follow their cars directly. The wind carried the sweet, undeniable scent of our destined companions. We ran through the trees, pacing the road from a safe distance, just far enough to learn which territory they belonged to and to make sure they got home safely. Silas's wolf flanked mine. Looks like our paths are aligned, Silas's voice echoed in my head. I turned to him and motioned my snout to the left, following the trail. We ran together, bound by instinct and the promise of what was to come. Chapter 2. Marisol's POV. After the swim meet, Willow and I went home. It was about 3 o'clock when we arrived there. But we both quickly grew bored and had to get out of the house. So we said goodbye to our mother and drove off to the mall. Now we were just walking around, trying on outfits and buying the things we liked. Can you believe what the girls were doing earlier? My sister asked me. I laughed. Well, come on, look at who it was that was doing it. I would expect those girls to do something like that, I responded. I pushed open the door to the store with my back so I wouldn't drop my shopping bags. That proved not to be worth it because I ended up slamming into somebody and dropping everything. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. He apologized and dropped down to help me pick everything up. It's all right, I replied, not looking up at first. Hey, didn't I see you on a bus earlier today? He asked. My head snapped up, and I came face to face with one of the guys who was in the car next to the bus. No, I lied. Yeah, he did. I remember seeing him in the car, Willow said. I shot a glare her way. I knew you girls looked familiar, he said with a warm smile. He touched my arm, and I immediately felt a small spark. I shrugged his hand off. You okay? He asked with a chuckle. Yeah, I said. Well, I need to go. It was nice talking to you, I said and started to walk away. Hey, do you think you'd maybe want to walk around or something? He questioned. I looked at my sister, biting my lip. Do it, I heard her whisper, and then she pushed me gently towards him. Okay, I shrugged and came back to him. I'll see you later, sis, she said, and my sister walked off. So what's your name? He asked me. I'm Marisol. How about you? The name's Maeve, he replied. So, may I ask where you girls were coming from yesterday on the bus? We were coming from a swim meet we had at the university. It was the last swim meet of the season. You're on a swim team? That's cool. Did you swim today? No, it was state opens. Only the best swim at it. My friends and I just sat in the stands watching and cheering. I bet you're great. You're probably good enough to be there. They just don't realize it, he said. I laughed. No, I'm definitely not good enough, I giggled. Do you do any sports? I run a lot, but I don't do any sports. I'm actually 19 years old. I graduated last year. Oh, I trailed off. I'm a senior. That's cool. Then my phone rang. I looked at it, then up at him. I need to get this, I said. I started chatting with someone and then hung up. I have to go. Willow, my sister, just called to tell me we have a last night of the year pasta party for swimming, I said. It was nice talking to you. Wait, do you maybe want to hang out tomorrow? He wondered. I smiled. Sorry, but I don't really hang out with older guys I barely know, I said. Come on, just as friends, he said. I sighed. Fine, I guess I could go and see what you're like. I don't know why, but I think you're all right. Give me a call. I smiled and wrote my number on his arm. I then walked away, leaving him smiling. Chapter 3. The next day. Ren's POV. As I got out of my car, I felt like someone was following me. I was just a nice girl heading to an outdoor concert. I had no enemies, at least I hope not. I locked my car and walked toward the music. Once there, I hoped my friends would be around so I wouldn't be alone. Awkwardly, I stared up at the stage, fidgeting, then decided to walk around. No longer paying attention to the music, I felt out of place and bored without my friends. Maybe I should just leave. I turned and screamed. Someone was towering over me. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scare you," he said. I looked up and met his brown eyes. He seemed intimidating. "It's okay. I have to go," I said, taking a step to sidestep him. "Please wait," he said gently, holding his hands up in a peaceful surrender. "I'm really sorry I scared you. Can I make it up to you?" he asked. "I don't even know you," I exclaimed. "I'm not a creep. I'm just a quiet guy who saw a beautiful girl alone and wanted to introduce myself." "I'm Victor," he said, holding out his hand. I shook it and said, "I'm Ren." "That name suits you," he said, smiling. "So, how do you intend to make it up to me? How about an ice cream? Would that make you feel better?" "I can see us being best friends," he said, smiling. The walk was longer than I expected, but I learned he was from Russia. We had a lot in common, which surprised me. He told me I was incredibly easy to talk to, which made me blush. After getting our ice cream, we sat down on a bench and learned more about one another. Then suddenly, his body stiffened, and he seemed to get lost in something he was thinking about. Victor's POV. "Vic, you need to get back to the pack house. Killian's been injured, and he's being rushed to the hospital." I heard Maeve's voice echo in my head. I shot up, leaping from the bench, startling my companion. I quickly apologized. "Sorry, but I need to get going. I just realized I have an appointment," I lied and started to walk away. Then I realized that I needed to keep in contact with her. "Is there any chance I could get your number?" I asked, hopeful. She smiled and nodded, holding out her hand. I handed her my phone, and she entered her number. I waved goodbye and took off running. Once in the woods, I transformed into my wolf and raced toward the pack house. Kid's POV. The front door burst open, and there was Victor. He quickly grabbed a blanket from the couch to wrap around himself. "What's going on?" he questioned, out of breath. "Go get dressed, and then we'll explain," Griff said. He ran upstairs and came down in record time. The guys and I sat together. "What's going on?" Victor wondered. "Malphas is the problem," Griff growled. "Malphas? As in your father's old friend Malphas Vane?" I asked. "Yes, him. He wants control of the pack. He was doing everything he could to keep Killian from ruling. Today, he showed up at my brother's door with some of the other elders. They attacked him and left him injured. Luckily, I got there in time to send him to the local hospital. The greatest werewolf doctor is positioned there, so he should be fine," he explained. Malphas took off with his family and some of the other families. There was a note on Killian's bed saying he plans to rule. I have a feeling that he's planning an attack on our pack in the near future. With Killian injured, I'm going to have to take the role of Alpha until he returns. Griff sighed, running a hand through his hair. My chosen companion is going to have to wait. We need to watch out for our pack and put our best security out there. Right now, all we can do is prepare for the worst. We need to keep the pack safe. And I need your help with it all. Who wants to go guard Killian at the hospital? "I will," I volunteered. "I trust you, Gid. Keep him safe and call me if anything comes up," he said. I nodded in understanding and respect, then ran outside, where I transformed. Chapter 4. Gid's POV. I headed into the hospital and walked straight up to the front desk. The young nurse looked up and smiled at me. I could tell she was a werewolf. "How may I help you?" she asked politely, still looking me in the eyes. "I need to know where Killian Blackwood's room is." "I'm family," I told her. Let me see," she said. "Mr. Blackwood is in room 103B. "Thank you," I said and turned to walk away. I found the door I was looking for and stepped inside. Killian was lying on the bed, hooked up to machines. His mother, Eleanor, was sleeping in a chair next to the bed. I walked over to her and tapped her on the shoulder until she woke up. "Gideon," she asked, stifling a yawn. "What are you doing here?" "Griff sent me. He wants me to watch over Killian." "Why don't you go home and get some rest?" "You look like you need it," I said. "No, I don't," she protested. "Yes, you do. Now go before I carry you out, I ordered. God, you're exactly like my sons. So persistent, she exclaimed, getting up. Thank you, Gid. It means a lot. No problem, Mrs. Blackwood, I said with a smile as she hugged me. She left the room. I sighed and slumped down into the chair. 20 minutes later, I heard shuffling. I looked up to see Killian opening his eyes and fidgeting to get comfortable. He finally regained full consciousness and looked up at me. Hey, man. Glad to see you're okay, I said. Do you want something to eat or drink? He nodded. All right, what will it be? Both, please, he croaked out. Get me whatever. You got it, I said, and I headed to the cafeteria. Somehow, I ended up in the ER. All I could hear was people in pain. But I caught a whiff of a familiar scent. The girl I was meant to find. What was she doing in the ER? Did she get hurt? I walked around looking for her and finally followed the scent to its source. There she was, sitting on a chair while a nurse tended to some cuts and bruises on her legs. She was wincing in pain. I casually sat down next to her. The nurse finally left after a few minutes, and I just sat there with my hands in my lap. Why are you here? You don't look injured, I heard a voice beside me. I turned my head and came face to face with her. I'm actually here with a friend, I said. Oh, what happened to him, or her, she questioned. He was attacked, I said. I'm sorry, she said and looked down. What about you? I wondered. My friend and I got into a car accident. She was driving and lost control of the wheel. I should have offered to drive instead. We hit a tree at a reasonable speed, and a branch broke the window on my side. The glass cut my legs, but otherwise I'm all right. That's all that matters, I said with a smile and then stuck out my hand. I'm Gid, by the way. She shook my hand. Beatrix. You can call me Trixie, she replied. That's a cute name. She blushed. Thanks. Anyways, I promised my friend that I would go get him something to eat. Do you know where the cafeteria is? I asked. Actually, I'm hungry too, she responded. I know where the cafeteria is. Follow me. She led me down the hallway until we stood in the entrance of the cafeteria. I bought some things for Killian and sat down with Trixie while she ate. We talked for what seemed like hours, even though it was really only half an hour. I learned that she was a high school senior and one of the best swimmers on the team. She told me her best strokes were freestyle and breaststroke, and that they had state opens yesterday. That must have been where she was coming from on the bus. I held that bit of information to myself. I was glad she didn't recognize me as one of the guys in the car. We got up, and I led her back to the waiting room, where she would wait for her friend. Thank you for putting up with my mindless blabber, she giggled. I liked it. I'd actually love to see you again. Can I get your number? I asked. She nodded and grabbed a pen from one of the tables. She wrote her number on my arm and kissed my cheek. I smiled at her and went back up to Killian's room. It's about time you got back, he exclaimed. Sorry, I met my destined companion, I apologized with a smile. Oh, okay, that's fine. Did you get her number? Yep. I'm proud of you, man. Congrats. Thanks. I was all smiles now. Chapter 5. Griff's POV. I needed a break from all the stress. All day, I had been sitting in my father's old office, organizing things. I told Silas I was going out and grabbed my car keys from the counter. Tonight I wanted to act like a normal person. I drove around town until I found myself pulling into the movie theater's parking lot. I parked and got out, locking my doors. Then I walked into the theater and bought a ticket for Sherlock Holmes. After buying some popcorn and a huge drink, I found Theater 6 and walked in. Once I stepped through the door, I smelled it. She was here. And my stress left my body automatically. I sat down next to her and grabbed a handful of popcorn, popping it in my mouth. Then I took a gulp of my soda. Do you mind? A voice beside me snapped. I turned my head to face my mate. She was giving me a look. Sorry, this popcorn made me thirsty, I replied, grinning. Whatever, she sighed. It's not like I was watching the movie anyway. You're not enjoying it? I questioned. Not really. I just wanted to get out of my house. Same here. At least someone knows how I feel. Oh, trust me, I do. My house is difficult right now. She nodded. I never got your name, she pointed out. I'm Griff. You. Ravenna. Nice to meet you, Griff, she said. You know, you're pretty cute. I smirked. You're pretty cute too, I said. We fell into silence for a while. The next thing I knew, we were kissing in the middle of the movie theater. We pulled away when a light flashed on us. Standing there in the aisle was a worker. I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you two to leave, he said. Come with me. She grabbed my hand, and we walked out together. The worker led us to the door, and we walked out. So, she said awkwardly, could I maybe see you again? I asked quickly. I don't know. Can you? It's all up to you. We exchanged numbers, and she left me with a soft kiss. I stood there for a few seconds before deciding to leave. When I got home, I was surprised to see my brother sitting on the couch, speaking to our mother and friends. You're home early, I said. Glad to see you too, bro. He laughed and cringed in pain. That's when I noticed that he wasn't wearing a shirt. His chest and stomach were wrapped with bandages. Otherwise, he looked good except for the fading cuts on his arms and head. The doctor said I was good enough to go home, but I need to be monitored. I'm healing pretty well, but my ribs were injured, so they're going to take a bit longer. I need to minimize my movement, he explained. Well, I'm glad you're feeling better. I'm heading to bed. I had a long day, I replied. All right, man, sleep well, Xander said. Good night, sweetheart, my mother murmured as I headed upstairs. Killian's POV. I think I'm going to take a walk, I said and started to get up. Oh no, you aren't, my mom protested, grabbing my hands and pulling me back down. It's just a walk, Mom. I need to think. Just let me go, I told her. Go ahead, she sighed. Just don't hurt yourself. I got up and went out the front door, heading for the backyard. When I came to the woods, I followed the trail. I walked for a long time and ended up on the local park's trails. I stopped when I heard something. I hid behind a tree and peeked out. There was a girl cowering back against a tree, crying. I recognized her as my mate immediately. Standing in front of her was a wolf. It appeared to be from the rival pack. Hey! I screamed and ran out from my hiding spot. The wolf turned its head toward me and snarled. Before I knew it, it was launching itself at me. I shifted into my wolf form. Willow's POV. I just wanted to go for a walk. Why did I have to be in this position right now? Hey! I heard a male voice scream, and then someone stepped out from the woods. The wolf turned its attention to the guy. Next thing I knew, the male was morphing into a wolf himself. My eyes widened, and I shrieked. My legs carried me down the trail. I was running as fast as I could. When I got too tired, I sat down on the ground and leaned against a tree. My head was spinning. I couldn't believe that just happened. Are you okay? Someone asked. I looked up and came face to face with the guy from before. The lightheadedness came back. I started, but I couldn't finish. Everything went dark. Killian's POV. It took me a little while to defeat my opponent, but I did it. I transformed back into my human form and instantly felt the pain. I wrapped myself back up and took off in the direction that my mate had run. I found her curled up against a tree. Are you okay? I asked as I walked toward her gently. Her head snapped up and her eyes got big. She trailed off, her eyes rolling back as she slumped to the ground. I knelt beside her, wincing from the pain in my ribs. Hey, I said softly, giving her shoulder a gentle tap. After a tense moment, her eyes fluttered open, panic instantly returning to her face as she scrambled backward. It's okay, I assured her, holding my hands up and backing away to give her space. The animal is gone. You're safe. But it's not safe to stay out here alone in the dark. Let me help you get somewhere secure. She stared at me, trembling, before giving a small, hesitant nod. Carefully, I offered her my hand to help her up, making sure she was ready to walk beside me. Together, we started the slow trip back to the safety of the pack house. Chapter 6. The next day. Willow's POV. I woke up in an unfamiliar place, wrapped up in blankets, in a bed. I sat up and looked around. I was in a bedroom I definitely hadn't been in before. Where was I? My heart started racing as I grew nervous. I yanked the covers off and got ready to get up when the door was pushed open. Standing there was the black-haired guy from last night, the one who had turned into a wolf. I jumped back into the bed and covered myself with the blankets, shaking with fear. I heard his footsteps stop a few feet away from the bed. He held his hands up in a placating gesture, keeping a respectful distance so I wouldn't feel trapped. "You don't need to be afraid of me," he whispered, his voice incredibly gentle. "I'm not a monster. You turned into a wolf," I yelled. He sat down on the edge of a nearby chair and sighed. I sat up against the headboard, keeping the blankets pulled tight, and surveyed him. "Want an explanation?" he asked. "Obviously," I shot back. "All right, so as you already know, I'm a werewolf," he said. "I am the alpha, or the leader, of this pack. After my father died, I took over. Do you recognize me at all?" "No. I've never seen you in my life." "Yes, you have. I was one of the guys in the car next to your bus," he said. "Oh," I trailed off. "So why did you save me?" "Because you're my chosen companion." "I'm your what?" "You see, every werewolf has a chosen companion, a person they are meant to protect and guide for the rest of their lives. A kindred spirit, if you will," he said. "I figured out that you were mine the moment I laid eyes on you. My friends found theirs that day, too. Their chosen companions are your friends." "Wait a second. You're telling me that I'm meant to be protected by you, and my friends are meant to be protected by your friends? I don't even know you. How do I know you're not lying?" He reached out and laid his hand gently on my arm, and a sudden warmth rushed through it, sending a comforting feeling down my spine. "Do you feel that?" he questioned, and I nodded. "This feeling is the first step. It is all ignited by a touch. It starts the bond of loyalty. We'll both feel it, but since you're a human, it'll be slightly different. As we get to know one another better and spend time together, the connection of trust grows." I sat there, awkwardly staring at him. "Are you all right?" I shook my head. "Yeah, I'm just trying to take this all in," I said. "Am I really your chosen companion?" "Yes, you are," he smiled. "But I never got your name." I blushed. "I'm Willow." "That's such a beautiful name." "I'm Killian." "Killian? That's my favorite name." He chuckled. "Really? Well, I guess that's a good thing." "Well, am I safe to leave now? You won't be able to find your way home alone. I'll bring you. Follow me." We headed down the stairs, where I spotted a few people sitting on the couch. They all looked at us. Killian shot them a warning look, and they quickly turned away. When we got outside, he led me to a large garage. We went inside, and he led me to that same red car from a couple of days ago. I got into the passenger seat. Since he only knew the general territory of my neighborhood, I had to give him directions to my street. He pulled up on the curb outside my house and put the car in park, looking over at me. "Thank you for taking care of me after I passed out," I said. "No problem. I'm always going to be there to protect you," he said. I smiled at him and got ready to get out, but he stopped me gently. "Can I see you again?" he questioned. "Of course you can. We're connected, right?" I said with a smile. "Give me a call." We exchanged numbers, and then his eyes grew serious. "You can't tell anyone what you saw or what I told you," he informed me. "The guys will eventually tell the girls, but right now is not the time for them to know." "I won't. I can tell it's important information. Anyway, I'll see you later, Killian." "Thank you again." I gave him another smile and got out of the car. I headed inside and said hello to my parents. When I went into my room, I found Marisol sitting on her bed on the other side. "Hey sis. It's about time you got home. Where were you?" "Oh, just somewhere," I replied vaguely with a hint of a grin on my face. I collapsed on my bed, staring up at the ceiling, thinking about him. I couldn't believe I was meant to have a protector. I never thought this day would come when I would find someone who cared like that. Chapter 7. Serafina's POV. I hadn't seen any of my friends since the last swim meet on Saturday. Not to mention, most of them hadn't shown up to school in the past 2 days. I headed into the coffee shop for my morning drink before school. The cute worker at the counter smiled as he handed me my usual. "Here you go, beautiful. Just like you like it," he said. "Thanks, Eric," I grinned and paid. I turned around, only to slam into someone, spilling my hot coffee down the front of my shirt. I shrieked, dropping my coffee cup. I desperately started trying to wipe the hot liquid off my shirt with my hands. "I'm so sorry," the guy exclaimed. "Just give me some space." I huffed, spinning around to march out the door. In my rush, I fumbled for my keys in my pocket, dropping them right onto the cafe floor. I bent down to grab them, but right as I did, another hand reached out and picked them up. My head snapped up, and I made eye contact with the guy who made me spill the coffee. "I believe you dropped these," he said, handing them to me. "No kidding," I growled, ripping them out of his hands. "I said I was sorry," he said gently. "Whatever," I mumbled. "How can I make it up to you?" "You can't. I have to go to school." "See you later," I said, rolling my eyes. "Wait, please don't go. I can't stand to see people I don't know mad at me. Especially beautiful girls like you." I turned to face him. "Why do you care so much?" He started, rubbing the back of his neck. "Because when I saw you, I had to know more about you." "Are you serious right now?" "Yeah, I'm serious," he stated. "Oh," I trailed off. A grin made its way onto my face. "You're kind of sweet." He smiled, revealing bright white teeth. "So, does that mean you forgive me?" "Maybe. So about getting to know me. Can I have your number?" "Sure," I answered, writing it down on his arm with a marker I pulled out of my purse. "Give me a call. You're going to make me late for school, mister." Coffee spiller. "That's Silas to you," he smirked as I pushed the door open to leave. "And I'm Serafina to you." "See you later," I laughed, heading out to my car. I drove to school with a smile on my face. When I got there, Nova approached the car. "Hey, girl," she said as I got out. Then she looked me over. "What happened to you?" "Don't ask," I groaned, rolling my eyes. "Wait a second. You can't go in there like that." "Well, what else can I do?" She wiggled her eyebrows. "Are you thinking what I'm thinking?" No. Let's skip," she exclaimed, jumping into the passenger seat of my car. "We can go find the other girls and head to the beach." I just sat there for a second, thinking. "Come on, it'll be fun," she told me. I sighed and gave in. "Fine, I guess we can go," I replied. Right as I was about to pull out of my spot, I heard the voices. "Hey, wait up!" Ren shrieked. Trixie and Ravenna were running behind her. "Where are you going?" Ravenna asked. "More like, where have you guys been?" I questioned. "Sorry, a lot came up," Willow's voice came. She and her sister were now standing with the others. "All right, well, we'll talk about that later." "Who's up for skipping?" Nova asked. "What could it hurt?" Marisol shrugged. "It's not like we've been here anyway." "Come on, sis, we'll take our car." They ran off, run with them. Ravenna and Trixie got in my back seat, and we drove to the beach. A girl's day out was exactly what we all needed. Chapter 8. Nova's POV. The girls didn't even think to drive us home for our bathing suits. Apparently, our clothes were good enough to swim in, and luckily, Serafina and Willow had some towels stashed in their trunks from swim season. We all giggled as we ran across the sand, tossing our towels behind us as we made a beeline for the water. We dove under the water and surfaced laughing. "I'm so glad I went along with this," Serafina chuckled. "I am too," I smiled and pinched her cheeks. "I'm going to have to say I am also," a voice came from behind me. I turned around and came face to face with a guy. I scowled at him as he looked at me. Are you trying to flirt with me?" I questioned. He stuttered. "Listen, I'm not interested," I said, rolling my eyes. I turned around and heard him splash away. Thank goodness. Xander's POV. My chosen companion had just turned me down. At the moment, my wolf was upset, and my heart felt heavy. "You blew it," my wolf growled at me. I sat back and watched from a respectful distance. I finally got a chance to talk to her alone when she separated from her friends and headed toward the concession stand. I grabbed my wallet and approached her when I heard the price. "Here, let me get that," I said and handed over the money. She scowled at me and picked up the food, walking away. "Let me help," I told her, trying to pick up some of the food she was holding. "Leave me alone," she said. I stopped walking, holding my hands up in defeat instead of following her. We got off on the wrong foot. "I apologize for being too forward," I called out gently. "I'm Xander." She paused, looking back at me. And I don't care, she muttered, though she didn't walk away. Come on. Give me a chance. Why should I? I don't even know you. Because you're beautiful and I'm interested in getting to know you. It may seem like I'm only trying to get close too fast, but that's not the case. Listen, I'm not good with girls. I don't know how this is supposed to go. Would you maybe consider hanging out with me, though? Wow, you're so pathetic, she laughed. I sighed to myself. This was hopeless. Yeah, I guess, I said, rubbing the back of my neck. I'm sorry. I'll just leave you alone. Have a great day. Hey, wait, don't go, she said. Maybe you should give me a call. Let me get my purse. I followed her to her towel and all of her friends stared at us. She pulled a pen and paper from her purse and wrote on them. Here you go, she said with a smile. I'll see you around. Yeah, was all I said as I walked away, staring at the piece of paper. It said her name. Nova. What a beautiful name. And below it was her number with a heart at the end. Underneath it said, call me. I smirked to myself and looked over at the guys. They knew I was in once I gave them that knowing smile. Congrats, man, Maeve said, slapping me on the back. Now let's head home. We should give them their space. And anyway, we need to check on Killian. Come on, brothers. We followed him out to the parking lot and got into the car, driving off to the pack house. Chapter 9. Maeve's POV. I decided today would be a great day to give my mate a call. It was the weekend, so she didn't have school. And I had never called her for the date I had promised. I picked up my phone and pressed on the contact labeled Marisol. It rang until I heard her voice. Hello. Hey, it's Maeve, I said. She was silent. From the mall. Oh, hey, she exclaimed. I was wondering when you were going to call. I was beginning to think you weren't interested. Oh, trust me, I'm interested, I chuckled. A lot of stuff came up. But I was wondering if maybe you wanted to go out tonight. It depends. Where are we going? I could tell she was smiling. Well, that's a surprise. You'll only find out if you come. She sighed. I guess I could come. When and where do you want me to meet you? How about we meet at the beach at 4 o'clock? I had the perfect idea for a date. That sounds good to me. I'll see you then, cutie, I said, then hung up. I grabbed some things from the basement and packed them in the back of the car. I then ran back into the house, calling for my mother. She came running. What is it, sweetie? She asked. What's wrong? I need your help, I told her. What is it? I need you to help me cook. I'm going on a date with my mate, and I need some good food. She smiled. Of course I'll help you. Where are you guys going? I'm bringing her for dinner on the beach. I need to go set up. That's why I need you to cook. All right, I'll get Eleanor, and we'll cook something. Go on and set up. I'll send somebody with the food later. What time do we have to be ready by? She's meeting me there at 4. Okay, honey, have fun setting up. Thanks, Mom. I love you, I said and kissed her on the cheek. Then I ran to the car and drove off to the beach. Marisol's POV. Around 3 o'clock, I ran to my closet and picked out my outfit. There was no way I was wearing a skirt or dress. Those things are uncomfortable. A pair of skinny jeans, sneakers, and a tank should be all right. I went into my bathroom and tamed my wavy hair with a hairbrush and dead angler. I threw it to the side and tied it in a side ponytail. I looked at the clock and saw that it was 3:30. Being early wouldn't hurt, would it? I grabbed my car keys and said goodbye to my sister, who was lounging on her bed. She didn't even look up at me. She was too engrossed in the book she was reading. When I got downstairs, I told my parents that I was going out. They just nodded, not even caring to ask. I got into my car and drove off to the beach, arriving at 3:50. I took a deep breath as I shut off the engine. I reluctantly got out of the car and headed down the boardwalk towards the sand. I paused when I saw it. Maeve was standing inside a small tent that had small lights hanging from it. In the middle of the tent sat a table covered with a red tablecloth. On the table there were 2 plates, utensils, and containers filled with food. I grinned. Do you like it? He asked. Like it? I giggled. I love it. Thank you so much. No problem. I just wanted you to see how it's going to be for you if you stick with me, he said. That was cute. I laughed, walking towards him. He pulled a chair out for me, and I took a seat. He sat across from me. So, what do we have to eat here? I asked, looking at the containers. Baked ziti with meatballs, he said. Would you like some? I nodded, and he dished us both out some. He then handed me a bottle of water. So, how have you been? He questioned as we ate. I've been okay. This week was really boring. I'm getting tired of school. I think I have a serious case of senioritis. Oh, I know how that feels. Don't let your grades slip, though. I did, and it backfired. Thanks for the advice. What about you? How have you been? Same old, same old. We had a big family issue come up. One of my best friends ended up getting hurt pretty badly, but he's all right now. Everything's calming down, but we all have a feeling it's going to come back. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have asked. No, it's all right. I'm glad to know that you're interested in my life, he said with a smile. I blushed and looked down at the ground. So, do you have any other siblings besides your sister? He changed the subject. Nope, it's just me, Willow, and my parents, I answered, sighing. Do you have siblings? Actually, I have 2 little brothers, a 5-year-old named Jason and a 3-year-old named Josh. My mom is Isadora, and my dad is Alistair, he responded. That's cute. I love little kids. I should meet them sometime, I said. Yeah, you should. I'm sure they would like you. My parents would also, he replied. We spent another hour just talking about our lives. I felt like I knew everything about him by the time we got up. He took my hand as we walked along the shore in silence. After a little while, we sat down in the sand, letting our feet soak in the waves. I felt at peace here. Water was my element. It calmed me. I turned to look at Maeve. He was watching the waves. He turned and looked into my eyes. We smiled, and the next thing I knew, he was leaning in. I leaned forward, closing the space between us. All I could focus on was our lips moving gently against one another, and all around me, I heard the sound of the waves. He pulled away, leaning his forehead on mine. Marisol, can I tell you something? He asked, and I nodded. Promise you won't judge me? I nodded nervously. He took a deep breath and looked me in the eyes. I'm a werewolf, he said seriously. I was silent for a second, and then I burst out laughing. I'm not kidding. I'm being serious, he told me. What? Are you kidding me? Werewolves don't exist. I giggled, pushing him lightly. Yes, they do. Here, I'll show you. Stay facing forward. Don't look back, he said. I obeyed and stared out at the waves. I heard shuffling behind me and then the sound of crunching bones. I flipped my head around, and in Maeve's place was a large brown wolf. My eyes grew large, and I gasped. I shuffled back a little as he stepped closer. He put his head down on the ground with his butt up in the air as if to say he wasn't going to hurt me. He came and sat down beside me, resting his head on my lap. I began stroking his fur. He was so adorable. I have my own werewolf? I asked him. He barked quietly and licked my cheek. You! I exclaimed, wiping his saliva off. I smiled back. This is so cool. You only see this stuff happen in movies. Then I paused. Wait, don't werewolves have someone they're meant to be with? He whimpered and nudged my head back to the waves. I heard cracking and shuffling once more. Then Maeve reappeared beside me. That's what I was going to tell you, he explained. Yes, werewolves do have someone they are meant to be with. They're called mates. Why are you with me? Don't you have a werewolf mate to find? You see, not all werewolves have werewolf mates. Some have human mates, he said, looking at me. And Marisol, you're mine. My jaw dropped. I'm your mate. Yes, you're the girl I've been waiting for. And at last I have found you. Would you like me to explain? I nodded, and he went on to talk about everything related to mates. When he was finished, I kissed him quickly. And by the way, your sister knows about werewolves. My friend is her mate. He saved her the other day and had to explain. She wasn't allowed to tell you until I did, he said. But now you can go home and speak to her. She's the only person you can talk to about this stuff, besides the people and me. I tell you, you're safe around. All of my friends have found out that your friends are their mates, and they're all planning on telling them soon. Promise me that you'll keep this a secret. I promise. You can trust me, I said with a smile. I'd better get home, though. It's getting cold, and I need time to process all of this. He laughed. You've got it, mate. Let me bring you to your car. He picked me up and carried me out to the parking lot. He set me down, and I unlocked my car. Thank you for the amazing night, I said, leaning in for a final kiss. As I did, he wrapped his arms around my waist, pulling me close to kiss me back. I pulled away breathless. I will never get enough of you, he breathed, chuckling. I'll see you soon. Yeah, maybe we can double with my sister and her mate, I said. Bye, Maeve. Bye, cutie, he grinned. He closed the car door behind me and watched as I drove out of the parking lot. This night couldn't have been any better. Chapter 10. Sunday. Griff's POV. Our mother had once again forced us to go to church. That place was horrible. The minister droned on and on about nothing. It drove me crazy. But ever since Dad died, she had been telling us it was the right thing to do. So we didn't protest. We missed our father. He was a good man, and he always knew what to say. I'm sure our pain didn't compare to the pain that Mom was feeling, though. The pain of losing your mate was bad. I was surprised she hadn't lost her mind yet. I think we were what kept her alive and sane. After church, Killian and I got to talking. Today was a pretty nice day. The sun was shining, and it would be a nice night to go out. So we agreed to double with our mates. He called up his mate, and I called mine. She answered on the second ring. Hello. Ravenna, it's Griff, I said. Oh, hey, handsome, she giggled. How are you? Fantastic, now that I'm talking to you, I replied. Wow, that was cheesy, but I'll let it pass this time. So what's up? I was wondering if you'd want to double with my brother and his date tonight. Sure. I'd love to. After all, I can't stop thinking about you after what happened in the movie theater. Neither can I, sweetie. Anyway, can I pick you up around 5? We'll go out for a small dinner in town, and then we'll head off to the movie. Does that sound okay? I know you have school tomorrow, so we'll go to an early showing. Who cares about school? I'd rather be out having fun than studying. That's not a good habit. And you think I care? She laughed. I'll see you later. All right, bye, I laughed as I hung up the phone. I was so relieved I had such a laid-back mate. That made it so much easier to be myself around her. Willow's POV. After I got off the phone with Killian and agreed to go on a date with him, it rang once more. I sighed and picked it up. I didn't have time to talk right now. I had to get ready. What? I groaned, answering the phone. You know, that's not a nice way to greet your friend. Ravenna exclaimed. Well, I'm sorry. I have to get ready. I have a date. Really? So do I. I was actually calling to see if you wanted to come over and help me pick out what to wear. So that's who Griff is bringing. I exclaimed. Killian told me that it was a double with his brother Griff. I guess you're his date. I'll be over in a little bit. All right, I'll see you later, she said and hung up. I smiled to myself and ran to my closet, throwing things on my bed. When I finished packing all the possible outfits into a bag, I threw in my straightener and some makeup, and then I was out the door. All I said to my sister before I left was that I was going out with my mate. She screamed good luck as I exited the door. Once I got to Ravenna's, we got to work. I straightened her normally crazy hair into a cute style that looked great on her. She did the opposite for me. She made my waves into elegant curls that framed my face. The makeup we settled for was light and natural. Finally, it was time to choose our outfits. That took the longest. I ended up picking dark denim skinny jeans and a strapless pink top, which I paired with a black blazer and pink sandals. In my ears, I placed silver dangly earrings. Ravenna went with an edgier look, like she usually does. She wore bleached black denim skinny jeans with a blue and black corset top. Over the corset, she wore a leather jacket, and on her feet were black studded gladiator sandals. All I had to say was that we looked great and that the guys would appreciate the time we spent doing this. Around 5 o'clock, we heard the honking outside. We grinned at one another and giggled before running out the door. I sat in the front with Killian, who was driving, and Ravenna sat in the back with Griff. We all kept up a casual chat the whole way there. Dinner was nice. We each decided to get our own booths. Griff and Ravenna were being so cute. He was actually making her blush. That never happens. After dinner, they brought us to a drive-in theater. I was surprised. I figured we were going to a regular theater, but I guess not. We all set up blankets in the back of their van and cuddled up next to one another, looking at the screen. So, what movie's going to play? I asked him. The Breakfast Club. It's a classic, he said. That's one of my favorite movies. Molly Ringwald is an amazing actress, I replied. You know, I thought we'd be going to an indoor theater, but this is really sweet. Indoor theaters are too practical. We had to do something different for once, he told me. And I thought maybe you would like it. Well, I do, I said, and snuggled up into his shoulder. He wrapped a blanket around both of us and put his arm around me. We lay back and looked up at the screen as the opening credits came on. Ravenna's POV. By the time the movie started, I was already sitting in Griff's lap with a blanket wrapped around the two of us. He had his head on my shoulder, and I snuggled into him. He inhaled and sighed. Did you just sniff me? I questioned. No. It was more like a question than an answer. Yeah, you totally did. I laughed. Do I at least smell good? More than you know, I heard him mutter. Okay then. I'm just going to act like I never heard that. I settled into his arms as the movie continued and sighed contentedly. I was falling for this guy, and I'd barely known him for a week. This never happened. What was he doing to me? Halfway through the movie, I found him staring at me. What? I giggled. You're just so beautiful, he said, tucking a piece of my hair behind my ear. A blush crept its way onto my cheeks, and I hid my face in his chest. Hey, don't hide from me. I think you're gorgeous when you blush. It brings your skin to life, he said, pulling my chin up so I was looking at him. How are you making me feel like this? I whispered to myself, but apparently he heard. We're made for each other. I've been looking for you, he responded before pressing his lips to mine. The kiss was slow, long, and passionate. I wrapped my arms around his neck and kissed him back. It was really a tender moment. When we pulled away, we looked one another in the eyes. I could get lost in them any day. I need to tell you something, he suddenly said. We're going to get some popcorn, Killian said, cutting in. He and Willow took off. They almost looked like they were giggling. What's going on? Why do they want me to be alone with him? Okay, I guess you can tell me, I said. I'm a werewolf. I looked at him as if he were crazy. Am I seriously falling for a guy who thinks he is a furry creature? What the hell? Does he have a personality disorder or something? Does that mean you get hairy when there's a full moon? I asked, trying to hold back my laughter. Not just when there's a full moon. I can do it all the time, he answered seriously. I quickly jumped off his lap and scooted away from him. There's something wrong with you, I said, playing with my blankets. You have issues. Maybe it'd just be best if you brought me home. I'm not insane, Ravenna. I'm being completely serious. Killian is one too. And Willow knows that. They left so I could tell you. It was like he was reading my mind. And you're my mate. Mate? As in soulmate? Listen, I don't believe in soulmates, so maybe you should just stop. Every werewolf has a soulmate, and you are mine. I've been looking for you, he said, his voice softening. He turned to look at me again. I felt kind of bad. Maybe he was telling the truth. Maybe werewolves were real. I sighed and moved myself back into his lap, forcing him to look at me. Can you please explain right now? I'm in total denial, I admitted. He spoke about everything, and I found myself believing him. I mean, how else would he know this information? But after he explained it all I could think about was how different this world suddenly seemed. So, does that mean things will be different between us? I asked. He burst into laughter. Baby, we can take things as slow as you want, he responded. We're not rushing anything. Phew, I sighed, wiping my forehead. You scared me there for a second. You really are too much, he laughed. But you like it, right? Of course I do. You're my mate. He kissed me on the forehead, and we returned to watching the movie, snuggled up against one another. Killian and Willow came back with popcorn and handed us some. They shared some and giggled throughout the whole movie. I was happy for her. When the movie was over, we packed up and got back into the main part of the car. Willow's POV. The guys dropped us off at Ravenna's house and walked us to the door. Thank you for this date, I said, blushing. Anything to spend time with you, sweetheart. I hope I'll see you soon. You will. I really like you, I confessed, looking down at the ground. Don't be shy around me, he said gently, pulling my chin up. I want you to feel open around me. I want you to trust me. Will you be my girlfriend? I smiled. Yes, I'll be your girlfriend, I said, looking him in the eyes. He grinned and leaned forward. I stiffened at first, but then relaxed as our lips met. When we pulled away, he grinned. Sorry, I probably wasn't very good, I apologized. No, you're a natural, he complimented. As much as I would love to stay here and talk to you all night, I think it's best that Griff and I go. Have fun in school tomorrow, my love. He pecked me on the cheek before he and Griff went back to their car and drove off. Ravenna and I smiled at one another, and I said goodbye to her, getting into my car. I drove home and told my sister all about it. Chapter 11. Monday afternoon. Trixie's POV. I was sitting in physics, bored out of my mind. All I heard from the teacher's mouth was blah, blah, blah. He was driving me crazy. Not to mention he couldn't teach. I was practically failing this class because of him. My phone vibrated in my pocket, making me jump. People around me stared, but the teacher didn't notice. That was the advantage of sitting in the back. I pulled out my phone and stuck it under the desk, only to see a text from an unknown number. I opened it and found myself smiling as I read it. Hey Beatrix, it's Gid. I figured I would text you since you're at school. Anyway, I was wondering if you wanted to go out tonight? I want to get to know you more. Text me back when you get the chance. I smiled. Wow, he actually used full sentences in his text. That showed that he cared about talking to me properly. He was the first guy who seemed to really care. I flipped the keyboard open and began texting back, giving him the same effort with full sentences. I would love to go out with you tonight. Just text me back and let me know what time and where. And you're right, I'm super bored. You're lucky you're not in school anymore. I envy you. I sent it and looked back up. The teacher was still droning on about some subject I didn't care about. Why did I take this class again? My phone vibrated again. I opened it and read, Is 5:30 all right? Absolutely, I texted back. All right, meet me at the beach then. I'll see you later, beautiful. Later. The rest of the day dragged on. And it was all because I wanted something to come faster. The moment you want time to speed up, it always slows down. I rushed home and finished all of my homework. When I was done, it was 4 o'clock. I practically ran to my closet and chose my clothes. I picked out a black and white dress with blue studded gladiator sandals to match. I took a black necklace from my jewelry box to complete the look. I placed everything on my bed and went into the bathroom to shower. I made sure to freshen up and sprayed myself with my favorite body spray before putting on my outfit. I let my hair stay in its usual gentle waves. I looked at my reflection in the mirror and smiled. I hadn't looked this good in a while, and it was all because of a boy. I blew myself a kiss in the mirror and giggled as I grabbed my keys, running out of my room. I told my mom and dad I was going on a date. They didn't protest. They were glad I was doing something besides swimming. They always felt like swimming dominated my life. I needed a social life. I drove to the beach, only to see that it was practically empty. That was better. I would be less distracted and not feel so self-conscious. I wiped my palms after locking my car and started the walk down the sand. I saw him sitting on a blanket, looking out at the waves. I crept up behind him. Boo! I breathed into his ear, making him jump a bit. Did I scare you? I teased, sitting down beside him. No, not at all, he protested. You sure about that? I'm pretty sure you jumped, I giggled. All right, I'll admit it, he laughed. So have you been? I've been going crazy. I'm waiting to hear back from some of the colleges that I applied to, and it's driving me insane. And now that swimming is over, I have nothing to do. I feel like something is missing in my life. I bet you'll get into every single one you applied to. You seem like a smart girl. And as for swimming, maybe you should join a recreational team. Nah, no offense, but I'm too fast for rec teams. I keep lapping everyone, and then they get upset. Why don't you try out for the Olympics? I thought for a second. Actually, that's not a bad idea. Thanks, Gid. No problem, he said. Are you hungry? My stomach grumbled, answering for me. I blushed. I guess that's a yes, he laughed, reaching behind him. I hadn't even noticed the large picnic basket before. He pulled out 2 sandwiches and a bag of chips. Sorry, I couldn't think of anything fancier. You'll probably never want to go out with me again, he said. I promise I'm not usually this simple. I don't think it's cheap. I think it's sweet, I said, kissing him on the cheek. Thank you. We ate our sandwiches and shared the chips. I learned a lot about him, but every time I tried to turn the conversation back to him, he wanted to know more about me. I really admired that he was actually trying to get to know me. We sat on the blanket and talked like old friends. It was great. I had never felt this strongly about a guy before. I could actually relate to him. After a while, we grew into a comfortable silence. At least I was comfortable. Gid seemed awfully fidgety. Trixie, do you believe in werewolves? He suddenly asked. I paused and looked at him strangely. Then I laughed. Well, that was extremely random. But no, I don't. Well, what would you do if I told you they are real? I'd think you were joking. What if I wasn't? Gid, you're kind of scaring me. I'm sorry. That's not what I was trying to do. I'm just trying to. Never mind, he sighed and sat there, hugging his knees. No, tell me what's wrong. You can trust me, I assured him. No, you'll just think I'm crazy, and then you'll stay far away from me. I'm not risking you never wanting to go out with me again. Come on, it can't be that bad, can it? I asked. He nodded, and I rolled my eyes. Just say it. I'm a werewolf, he said. I burst into laughter. If he was trying to be funny, it was working. But then I saw his face. He was serious. I told you that you'd think I'm crazy, he said. Wait, you were being serious? I questioned, shocked. He nodded, and I let out a big breath. Wow, my date thinks he's a werewolf. Do you need proof? I nodded. All right, don't get scared. I'm not going to shift right now because that's too much, but I can show you something else. I watched him anxiously, wondering if he was telling the truth. Gid's POV. I closed my eyes and let my wolf come forward just enough for my canines to elongate. I held back the stronger instincts and opened my now darker eyes, then opened my mouth to show her. Holy crap, she muttered. You're seriously a werewolf? I closed my eyes again and pushed my wolf back, returning to normal. When I opened my eyes, she was still staring at me with wide eyes. Yes, I'm really a werewolf, I told her. Wow, just wow. You don't see this happen every day, she exclaimed. Actually, there are a lot more werewolves out there than you think. And not all of them are good, I told her. My pack, however, is one of the good ones. Can you tell me more? She asked, curious. Actually, I want to tell you something first, I said. You see, every werewolf has a chosen companion, and, well, you're mine. What? She practically yelled. All right, now this is where I draw the line. I believe you about the werewolf thing because I saw the proof, but me being your companion? How do you prove that? I laid a hand on hers. She jolted slightly when she felt the small sparks. Is that enough proof? I questioned. She nodded quietly. Do you want to hear everything now? Yes, please, she replied quietly. I kept my hand on hers and began to explain everything. I told her about the bond and how my friends were connected with her friends. I also explained that she couldn't tell anyone about what she saw or heard tonight, except for Willow, Marisol, Ravenna, and my pack. Wait, how do you know that Willow, Marisol, and Ravenna are my friends? She wondered. You don't remember, do you? I chuckled. No. Do you remember that car next to the school bus? She nodded. Well, I was in that car. That's how I saw you for the first time, and that's how my friends saw their companions. Oh, she trailed off. So now that I know about all of this, what's going to happen? Nothing's going to change in your life. You can carry on like normal, except now you'll have someone special in your life. Who said I wanted you as my man? She asked. My heart stopped for a second. Was she denying me? I gulped. Well, that's up to you. But I'd be lost without you. I was just kidding, Gid. I saw how pale you got when I said that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scare you, she giggled. I believe that's 2 for me and 0 for you. You're gonna pay for that, I winked. I'll get you back someday. Oh, will you now? She teased, moving closer. Oh, I will, I said, gently pulling her closer. I leaned in and kissed her. She accepted it right away. It was sweet and full of warmth. I knew I had found the right girl. Fate had put us together, so we were meant to be. We pulled away, and I smiled at her. Then I stood up and got down on one knee. Beatrix Dudley, can I have the honor of calling you my girlfriend? I asked. You're so romantic, she giggled. Yes, I will be your girlfriend. I stood up and kissed her gently on the lips. I should be getting home. I've got school tomorrow, she said. But I don't want you to go, I whined, pulling her closer. She gently pushed me back. I gotta go, Gid. I'll see you soon. You bet I will, I said, kissing her once more before letting her go. I stayed on the blanket and watched her walk back to the parking lot. Tonight had been perfect. Chapter 12. Tuesday. Seraphina's POV. My eyes widened when my phone rang in the middle of class. Who would be calling me right now? I sat up straight and acted as if it wasn't mine. It stopped ringing right as the teacher walked over to my partner and me. I don't know whose that was, but if I hear it again, you're going to the office, she warned. We both nodded nervously, and then she went back to the front of the classroom. I mouthed a sorry to my partner, who was staring angrily at me. My bad. After class, I headed into the bathroom to see who had called and nearly got me into trouble. I flipped my cell open and saw an unknown number. I grumbled to myself as I dialed it back. A voice answered. Hello. Who is this? I questioned. Who is this? They asked. Seraphina. Why did you call me? Who are you looking for? Seraphina? It's Silas. Silas? From Starbucks? Yeah, it's me. I have school right now. Why would you call me? I'm sorry. I didn't know. You looked older than a high schooler. Whatever, I mumbled. What do you want? Wow, you're in a bad mood, aren't you? Yeah, I am. You nearly got me sent to the office. I'm sorry. I was just calling to see if you wanted to go out tonight. But apparently you're too upset to care. My face softened. Listen, I'm sorry, Silas. I've just had a bad day so far. I would love to go out with you tonight, though. What do you have planned? That's for me to know and you to find out. Meet me at the park around 5. I'll see you there. With that, he hung up. I stared at my phone. How rude of him to just hang up without saying goodbye. I sighed and headed off to my next class, wondering what the date was going to be like. Why couldn't he just tell me? Silas's POV. She was seriously upset when I got off the phone with her. I was glad she still accepted the offer, though. I was really excited to see her again. Although I had seen her last week, it felt like it had been forever. That was the effect of having a mate. It was nearly 2 o'clock when I started preparing. I asked my mother to cook up something simple, and she gladly agreed. She gathered some of the other moms in the kitchen, and they all helped cook. I didn't understand why she needed that many people for a simple dinner. I pushed those thoughts aside and ran up to the attic to gather the things I needed. I picked up a bunch of candles, a red and white checkered blanket, and a picnic basket. I was interrupted when Xander walked up. I thought I heard someone up here. What are you doing? Xander asked. Getting ready for my date with my mate, I told him. Awesome. I'm glad you're finally going out with someone, he chuckled. Shut up, man, I laughed with him. Well, enjoy yourself. I'll be downstairs with the guys if you need anything. I nodded and continued gathering what I needed. At 4 o'clock, I changed and left the house for the park. Once I got there, I went to the gazebo in the middle of the green space. I took the Christmas lights from my bag and began hanging them around the posts. When I finished, I laid the blanket down inside and started placing the candles around it. I lit them with the matches I had brought and sat down, exhausted. I had never gone to these extremes for a girl before. I must really like her. I sighed and leaned back against the blanket, closing my eyes. Sleeping on the date, are we? A sweet voice said. My eyes snapped open and I sat up. Standing there was Seraphina. I grinned. Nope, I was just waiting for you. It's rather comfortable down here. Why don't you join me? She sat down beside me, and we just looked at one another. You did all of this. She broke the silence. Yep. Every single bit of it, I told her with a grin. Pretty impressive for a pretty boy, she teased, taking my hat off me and putting it on her own head. Hey, that thing costs quite a lot of money, I warned her. Your point. How do you know I don't have lice? You, she exclaimed and threw the hat back at me. I chuckled and placed it back on my head. Next time you steal my hat, I'll remember to say that, I said. So, do you want to eat? What? No, hello, or, how are you doing? I rolled my eyes. Hello, Serafina. How are you doing? I'm doing great. Now, what about food? I laughed. I've got some homemade nacho dip and chips along with some homemade macaroni and cheese, I responded. Sounds good, she replied. I dished out the food, and we talked while we ate. I was glad she was one of those girls who could eat comfortably around a guy. She wasn't shy about asking for seconds. Oh, and for dessert, I brought gummy bears, I said. She gasped. What type? Haribos. Oh my God, I love Haribos. Gimme. I pulled out the gummy bears, and we started eating them. Before long, she was running around like a crazy girl, giggling. I think I gave her too many. I ran up behind her and wrapped my arms around her waist, causing her to giggle and topple over. We lay on the grass looking up at the stars that were now out. It's beautiful out, she whispered. I have a better view right here, I said, looking at her. She turned her head and smiled at me. I leaned forward to kiss her, but she wouldn't let me. She sat up instead. This was a lovely date, Silas, but I really should be getting home. I had a great time. Thanks for doing this. She leaned down and pecked me on the cheek before getting up and walking to her car. I guess she didn't trust me enough yet to let me kiss her. Or maybe she was playing hard to get. I had been planning to tell her everything tonight, but apparently it wasn't the right time. I picked everything up and headed home, only to be greeted by the guys. So how was your date? Killian smirked. It was all right. Quite amusing, actually. She got hyper from eating too many gummy bears, I chuckled. Did you tell her? Gid asked. I shook my head. What? Xander questioned. You didn't tell her yet? Dude, what are you waiting for? She wouldn't let me kiss her, so I wasn't about to tell her that I'm a werewolf and she's my mate. I have to wait until she trusts me enough, I told them. That's true, I guess. But you'd better do it soon. With everything that's going on with the rival pack, we need to keep our mates protected. They won't understand why we're being so overprotective unless we explain, Griff said. I know. Don't push me. I'll do it when we're both ready. Now, if you don't mind, I'm going to put away all this stuff, shower, and then go to bed early. I headed upstairs to my bedroom. Chapter 13. Nova's POV. Xander and I had been texting since the day I met him at the beach. I was beginning to really like him, even though we were only talking over the phone. I had to decline all of his offers to take me out, though. I felt bad, but midterms were going on. Now I was finally free. And guess what? I had just been asked to hang out with him. He told me to dress warmly since we would be outside in the fall. I dressed in jeans, boots, and a knit sweater. I wrapped a scarf around my neck and headed to the park where he told me to meet him. When I got there, I found him sitting on a bench, staring off into space. I sat down beside him and smiled, although he wasn't looking at me. Hey, I said. His head whipped around, and he looked at me. A smile spread across his face, revealing his bright teeth and defined cheekbones. Hey, how are you? He asked. I'm great. You? Fantastic, he grinned. Shall we? He got up and motioned for me to follow him. I gladly did so. We began walking the trail, asking each other questions. We learned about one another's families, favorite foods, favorite colors, and other things. It wasn't anything big, but this small date felt perfect. At least I was alone with him. So I heard that you're friends with some of my friends' girlfriends, I informed him. Yes, I am actually. We've all been best friends since high school. We all live very close to one another, he replied. That's great. You graduated, right? Yeah, I graduated last year. I presume that you're a senior. Yep, and I can't wait to get out of that place. School is horrible for me, I revealed. Why? I only have my small group of friends, and every time I fell for someone, things never worked out. I'm beginning to think that love isn't real, I told him, blushing. Well, maybe things happen for a reason, he suggested. Maybe those guys just weren't right for you. After all, has anything kept the two of us apart yet? I flushed a deep shade of red. No, I trailed off. Exactly. Maybe this is meant to be. Whoa, I laughed. You're really forward, aren't you? Actually, he said, stopping and turning to look at me, there's a reason for that. That reason being, I need to tell you something. All right, go ahead. It can't be that big of a deal, can it? I'll let you be the judge of that, he gulped. Nova, I'm a werewolf. A werewolf. I chuckled. That's a funny one, Xander. You had me going there for a second. I'm not kidding. His face was completely serious. You're kidding me, right? Werewolf as in like the movies. I'm completely serious. You seriously expect me to believe this? Fine. You know what? I'll just prove it to you, he said. Xander's POV. I huffed, turning around. It was irritating that she didn't believe me. But what was I expecting? She was human. Of course, she wouldn't believe something like this right away. I stepped behind a dense thicket of bushes, not wanting to startle her further during the transformation. The sound of cracking bones echoed through the quiet trail, and a moment later, I stepped out into the clearing in my wolf form. I stood before her, my dark brown fur gleaming in the fading sunlight. Her eyes grew wide. The next thing I knew, her eyes rolled back, and she collapsed to the ground. She had fainted. I quickly ducked back behind the bushes to shift back, pulling on the spare set of clothes I always kept stashed nearby for just such an occasion. I knelt down beside her a moment later, my heart racing. All that mattered was my mate. Nova? I asked, gently shaking her shoulder. Her eyes fluttered open. When she saw me, they widened again. You weren't lying, she choked out. No, Nova, I wasn't, I said softly, helping her sit up. She looked me over, still a little shaky, her face turning pink as the reality set in. I need to sit down. I'm right here, I said, leading her to a nearby fallen log. Can you explain now? I'm still in shock, she admitted. I sat down with her and explained everything, what it meant to be a werewolf, the concept of mates, and how my friends were paired with her friends. When I finished, she started asking questions. When you said maybe this was meant to be, did you mean that I'm your mate? She wondered. I nodded. I knew you were my mate the moment I laid eyes on you, I explained. Will you accept being my mate, or are you going to deny me? She sighed. After hearing what it could do to you if I denied you, I'm going to accept. Plus, I like you and I'd love to get to know you better. But we need to make a deal. Anything for you, beautiful. You cannot pressure me into anything. I'll tell you when I'm ready for more. All right? Of course. I would never pressure you. I'm not that kind of guy. She rolled her eyes and smiled. Whatever you say, tough guy, she teased. But can I ask you something? Sure, what is it? Can I, kiss you? I don't want to pressure you or anything, but... I was cut off when her soft lips met mine. I groaned quietly into the kiss, feeling her smile against my mouth. We kissed for a few minutes, slow and sweet. I may not have known this girl very well yet, but I already knew I was falling hard for her. Chapter 14. Ren's POV. I usually took that route home from school every day. It was my normal shortcut. If I didn't take it, the walk would add 15 minutes to my trip. But that day, going that way turned out to be a mistake. I was walking through the alley when I heard the loud crash of bottles hitting the pavement. I froze as I saw two men only a few feet away, looking rowdy and aggressive. I quickly turned around and started walking away fast. Hey, where do you think you're going, beautiful? One of them called out. I picked up my pace, but I was suddenly blocked. I spun around as one of the men stepped into my path, his hand gripping my shoulder to keep me from moving. I could smell the stale alcohol on his breath, and my heart hammered against my ribs. I cried out in protest and tried desperately to twist away, but his grip was too strong. I wished I could scream for help. The next thing I knew, something large and dark tackled my attacker to the ground. I scrambled back against the brick wall and watched in shock as a huge animal fought the two men. In a matter of seconds, The threat was gone, and the men had scrambled away into the night. I stood there frozen, unable to believe what I was seeing. The animal turned toward me, and I froze again when its dark eyes met mine. Strangely, I wasn't scared. In fact, I felt a wave of relief. This creature had just saved me. He slowly approached and nudged his head gently against my arm, as if checking to see if I was okay, before guiding me toward the mouth of the alley. "Thank you," I whispered to the beast. He whined softly and ducked behind a row of large shipping crates in the shadows. A series of cracking sounds filled the air, and a moment later, a young man stepped out, adjusting a jacket over his shoulders. My jaw dropped. You're the guy from the concert," I gasped. "Yes, my dear," he replied gently, stepping into the light. "Are you all right? Did they hurt you?" "I am fine," I stuttered. What are you?" "I didn't want you to find out like this, but I had no choice," he said. "I couldn't let them touch you. Run, I'm a werewolf." I stared at him for a second, then burst into nervous laughter. "You know, this is actually really wild. This kind of thing doesn't happen in real life. This only happens in stories." I giggled. "Now all of a sudden it's real? Wow. Glad to see you find this so amusing," he said with a small, relieved smile. "Oh, come on, no hard feelings," I said, starting to calm down. "I'm not trying to insult you. I just find the whole situation so surreal." He took my hand, saying it was for protection, and led me away from the alley. We ended up at the beach just as the sun was setting. He brought me to the shore, and we walked slowly along the water's edge. "So, you took that news quite well," he told me. I shrugged. "The truth is the truth. I couldn't exactly deny what I saw with my own eyes," I replied. "Do you want to know more?" he asked. "Sure, why not?" I said. "Well, first of all, do you remember who I am?" "The guy from the concert," I giggled. "Obviously." "No, you knew me before that," he said. "I was one of the guys in the car next to your school bus." "No way," I exclaimed, hitting him lightly on the shoulder. "Way," he laughed. "That's so strange that I don't remember you. Anyway, continue." I listened as he explained about the pack and the strength they shared. Then he got to the part about mates. "Every werewolf has a mate that they're meant to spend their entire life with," he explained. "It's a bond of absolute loyalty and protection." I may have read a few stories about this online, I admitted with a laugh. "So, have you met your mate yet?" "Yes, I have, and she's the most incredible person I've ever seen," he said with a warm smile. My happiness faltered a little. "Oh, that's great," I said quietly. "Hey, why do you look so sad?" he asked, gently lifting my chin so I would look at him. "I'm not." "Well, sweetie, you don't have to worry," he whispered. "Because you're my mate." "What?" "I'm your mate. Why do you think I've been looking out for you?" "From the moment I saw you on that bus, I knew," he said. "I have a werewolf as a mate?" "Yep. And if you'll let me, I'd love to be your boyfriend," he said. "Maybe by the end of the night I'll agree to that, but right now I need to get to know you better." "Shall we?" I asked, holding out my hand. He took my hand, and we continued our walk. By the end of the night, we had learned so much about each other. He walked me back to my house, and I left him with a soft goodnight kiss on the lips. I was already falling for him. How could I feel this strongly about someone I had only just met? Chapter 15. Seraphina's POV. Silas sat behind me on the log, his arms wrapped securely around my waist. The bonfire roared, and the sound of packed children laughing in the distance made the woods feel surprisingly like home. Suddenly, a low, vibration-like growl echoed from the trees. I stiffened, but Silas didn't flinch. "Silas? What was that?" I whispered. "Just the sentries, Seraphina," he said softly, kissing my temple. "It's how we communicate. We're all werewolves here." I froze, then burst out laughing. But Silas's expression remained steady. My laughter died down as I looked at Willow, who was nodding. "It's true, Fina," Willow said. "Our boyfriends are a lot more literal about their alpha personalities than we thought." Silas turned me to face him. "Every wolf has a destined companion, a soul meant for them. And you're mine. This is my world, and I want you in it." "Wow," I breathed, leaning into him. "Just promise me no glowing eyes in the middle of dinner." I make no promises, he smirked, pulling me into a sweet, lingering kiss. Ravenna's POV. Griff and I sat by the lake, the water shimmering under the moon. Griff, I whispered. I love you. He smiled, a look of pure relief crossing his face. I love you too, Ravenna. More than I can put into words. He leaned in, and as we kissed, I felt a strange, golden warmth radiating from him. He pulled back slightly, his eyes glowing a soft amber. I want to leave my mark on you, he murmured. A bond that tells the world you belong with the pack and with me. I nodded, trusting him completely. He leaned down, and I felt a brief, tingling sensation against my neck, like a static spark. When he pulled away, a faint, elegant silver mark shimmered on my skin before fading beneath the surface. You're mine now, he said proudly. Always. Willow's POV. Killian and I were upstairs in his room, away from the noise. The air felt heavy with a pull I couldn't describe. I want to make it official, Willow, Killian said, his voice husky. The Alpha's bond. If I mark you, our souls are tied. You'll be the Luna of this pack. I looked at him, my heart racing. I loved him, but the word Luna felt heavy. It meant responsibilities. It meant leaving my human life behind. Do it, I whispered, wanting to feel that connection everyone talked about. He leaned down, and the mark was sealed, a rush of warmth and power that left me breathless. But as he pulled away, his eyes stayed serious. Willow, now that the bond is sealed, the pack will expect you to stay. They'll expect us to begin our life together, permanently. The Luna's duty starts immediately. I sat up, the reality hitting me like a ton of bricks. Wait, immediately? Killian, I have finals. I have college applications. I'm 18. I'm not ready to be the leader of a wolf pack and stay in these woods forever. The bond will make it hard to be apart, he explained gently. It's how we're made. No, I said, standing up. I love you, but I can't give up my entire future today. If being your companion means I lose myself, then I can't do this. I need a normal life, Killian. I'm not ready for this world. Willow, wait, he called, but I was already at the door. I couldn't look back. I ran to my car and drove, the silver mark on my neck stinging with the weight of a choice I wasn't ready to make. Killian's POV. She left. The bond one had just sealed was screaming in agony. I had waited my whole life for my Luna, and I had just watched her drive away because my world was too big for her to carry. I shifted and sprinted into the dark, letting out a howl of pure heartbreak. Griff's POV. The howl stopped me cold. It was Killian. The bond between twins told me everything. He was shattered. Go back to the fire, Ravenna, I said, already shifting. My brother needs me. Chapter 16. Griff's POV. I found Killian in a small clearing. His wolf form was hunched low as he let out a soft, broken whine. I nudged his side gently. Killian? What happened? I sent through our bond. She chose her old life over us, he replied, his mental voice shaking. We are linked, Griff. Our souls are tethered, but she's trying to pull away. I feel like I'm fading. Give her time, brother, I urged. The world we're asking her to join is huge. I'll have Ravenna talk to her. Please, he whispered. I can't lead the pack if I'm not whole. I headed back to the bonfire and found Ravenna. When I told her, she gasped, her hand flying to her own fresh mark of the bond. I'll go to her tomorrow, she promised, pulling me into a hug. She looked at me expectantly, her eyes full of affection. But what about us? I thought tonight was the night we finalized everything. I sighed, tucking a lock of hair behind her ear. Rev, I want that more than anything. But the bond is a beacon. If we complete our union tonight, the surge of energy would be a secondary blow to Killian's heart. He needs to heal first. I promise, when the time is right, we won't let anything stand in our way. Gid's POV. Trixie and I were in my old treehouse, the stars visible through the skylight. Gid, she whispered, her hand over her heart. I feel the pull. I want the seal. I want to know I'm yours. I leaned in, my eyes glowing a deep, protective amber. I pressed my forehead to hers. It's a permanent choice, Trixie. No turning back. I'm not looking back, she said. I leaned down to her shoulder, and instead of a bite, I focused all my intent on the bond. A bright, electric spark jumped between us, the seal of the century. She gasped, a rush of golden light shimmering briefly over her skin before settling into a beautiful, faint mark. Wow, she breathed, touching the spot. I feel connected. To everything. You're part of the pack now, I smiled. And you're my world. Marisol's POV. Maeve, seal the bond, I said as he walked me to my car. He paused, his hand on the doorframe. Marisol, you don't have to rush this just because the others are. I'm not rushing, I said firmly. I saw what happened to Willow and Killian. I don't want that distance. I want to be tethered to you. He pulled me into a fierce hug, his breath warm against my neck. I felt a sudden, sharp tingle. Like a surge of pure energy, passing from him to me. It was a soul-deep claim. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding as the warmth of the bond settled into my bones. You're mine, Marisol, he whispered. Always. Willow's POV. I lay on my bed, my skin feeling like it was on fire. The mark Killian had left on my collarbone was humming, a magnetic pull that made my entire body feel restless and heavy. It wasn't just a crush, it was a physical fever. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him. I felt a desperate need to be near him, a literal ache in my chest that made me want to scream. I couldn't sit still. I rushed to the bathroom and turned the shower to a freezing spray, sitting on the floor as the cold water hit my skin. I needed to drown out the sensation, to remind myself that I was still me, not just half of a pear. Willow. Marisol's voice came from the door. She pulled the curtain back, her face full of concern. I saw the shimmering mark on her neck and burst into tears. It's too much, Marisol, I sobbed as she wrapped me in a towel. The bond is trying to take over. How am I supposed to be a normal girl when my soul is calling for him? We'll figure it out, Marisol promised, tucking me into bed. You're stronger than this, Willow. We all are. Griff's POV. I found Killian by the lake, his human form shivering despite the heat of the night. I sat beside him in silence. The pack was changing, the bonds were forming, but the heart of our alpha was under siege. We weren't just fighting rival packs anymore, we were fighting to keep our humanity. Chapter 17. The next morning. Killian's POV. I jolted awake as Malfa's vein stepped from the shadows of the clearing. He looked at me with a jagged smirk. You're fading, Killian, he sent through our mental link. An alpha without a Luna is a king without a crown. You're weak. I'm strong enough to take you down, Malphas, I growled, though my heart hammered with a truth I didn't want to admit. We're coming for the pack, Malphas warned. And those human companions of yours? They won't stand a chance when the line breaks. He vanished, leaving me cold. I raced back to the house and let out a summoning howl. Within minutes, the pack gathered in the hall. The rogue group is moving, I announced. We prepare for a defensive stand. All chosen companions who live in the human towns must be moved to the pack house immediately for protection. Are you ready, Alpha? An elder asked. The bond isn't finalized. You're fighting at half strength. I'll fight with everything I have, I stated. There are ways to speed up the process, one male suggested darkly. Even if the girl is hesitant. I slammed my fist into the stone mantle, the sound echoing like a gunshot. Never, I snarled, my eyes flashing a dangerous gold. The bond is built on choice and respect. If anyone in this pack suggests forcing a connection, they can join the rogues. Am I clear? The room went deathly silent. They nodded, retreating to their tasks. I sank onto the couch, my head in my hands. I didn't want to lose Willow, but I wouldn't break her spirit to keep her. Nova's POV. Xander was tense as he drove me away from my parents' house. He had used a study group excuse to get me out for the afternoon, but his knuckles were white on the wheel. Nova, there's a threat, he said, pulling over. He explained the rogue pack and the danger we were in. I need you at the pack house. We've set up a study abroad cover story for your parents. I was terrified, but then he looked at me with such raw desperation. I need to seal our bond, Nova, he whispered. Not to claim you like a prize, but to wrap my protection around your soul. If a rogue tries to touch you, the mark will alert me instantly. It's the only way I can feel your heartbeat from the battlefield. I saw the love in his eyes and nodded. He leaned in, pressing his forehead to the crook of my neck. I felt a sudden, powerful surge of warmth. A golden spark that bloomed across my skin. It wasn't a bite, it was a promise. You're mine to protect, he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. Always. A couple of days later, Willow's POV. The study abroad covers were set. We had the permission slips, the fake itineraries, everything we needed to disappear into the pack house for the upcoming conflict. Ravenna was nervous but determined. Marisol was quiet, checking her phone. We were all terrified, but we couldn't leave the guys to face this alone. As we walked into the pack house, the air felt electric, humming with the energy of dozens of wolves on high alert. I felt the mark on my collarbone thrumming, pulling me toward the center of the room. I looked up, and there he was. Killian. He looked exhausted, his alpha aura flickering, but when his eyes met mine, the relief was so sharp I could almost taste it. I knew what I had to do. Not because I was meant to, but because I couldn't let him break. Chapter 18. Killian's POV. I heard the car coming up the driveway before anyone else. I stood up and looked out the window. All of our chosen companions were walking toward the house. Willow's scent hit me instantly, sweet and familiar. I whipped the door open. She gasped when she saw me. I tried to stay composed, but the intensity of the bond made my eyes flash with a bright, golden glow. My friends noticed the shift in my energy and quickly stepped forward to greet their companions first, giving me a moment to settle my racing heart. Soon, the living room was packed. Everyone from the pack sat in silence, observing the 7 girls. The boys introduced them all, including Willow. Before long, the room filled with conversation. I sat there, my attention locked on Willow. She seemed lost in her music with her earphones in, a small shield against the chaos of the pack house. Finally, I gathered the courage to sit beside her. She tensed up immediately. "How are you?" I asked softly. "All right, I guess," she shrugged. "You? Better now that you're here," I admitted. "I've really missed you." She gave a small smile. "I've missed you too. Listen, I'm really sorry about running off like that. I was scared and didn't know what to do." "I understand. But I need to know, do you really want to be here with me?" She looked at the floor. "I care about you, Killian. I couldn't leave you to face this alone. But I'm still trying to figure out how I fit into all of this. The bond is going to feel stronger now that we're all under one roof," Ravenna whispered, leaning over. "It's like the air is charged." Willow looked at me, her eyes searching mine. "Do we have to rush this, Killian? I'm still just a high school senior. I want a future." "I'm not pushing you, Willow," I reassured her, resting my chin on the top of her head. "We'll face the rogues first. We'll worry about the rest when the world is quiet again." Victor's POV. I watched Ren giggling at something a pack member said. It was incredible to see her fitting in so naturally. Having her here made the house feel complete, though the psychic pull of our bond hummed like live wire in my chest. She sat down on my lap and wrapped her arms around my neck, smiling. "How are you today?" she asked. "Better than ever," I replied, giving her a quick kiss on the cheek. The air in the room felt heavy with the collective energy of so many pairs in one space. Ren laughed playfully before standing up. "I think I'll go see what the others are doing," she teased, sensing my restlessness. I stayed seated, taking a deep breath to settle my wolf's protective instincts. My friends were snickering, and I shot them a glare. She had no idea how much her presence grounded me. Griff's POV. My mother approached Ravenna and me, her face beaming. "You must be Ravenna. I'm Eleanor, Griffin's mother. It's so nice to finally meet you." Ravenna jumped up and gave my mother a big hug. "It's nice to meet you too. Griff has told me so much about you." My mother cooed, then reached out and playfully pinched my cheeks. Ravenna snickered. I glanced at Ravenna, and for a second, the room seemed to fade away. The connection between us was surging, making the air feel electric and thick with shared emotion. My mother cleared her throat, sensing the shift in the room's energy. Well, I'll go speak to the others." "I'll see you later," she said quickly. "Why did you look at me like that?" Ravenna pouted, sitting beside me. The connection is just loud today, I whispered. It's hard to focus on anything else. I took her hand and led her toward my room. Let's get away from the crowd for a bit. I want you to feel safe and calm before things get busy with the guards. Seraphina's POV. I watched with a flicker of confusion as Silas seemed distracted. He was staring toward the hallway where Griff and Ravenna had gone, his expression intense and distant. Why are you looking over there like that? I asked, a hint of hurt in my voice. He didn't respond immediately. It was like he was tuned into a frequency I couldn't hear. I tapped his arm to get his attention. Ow, what was that for, Fina? I thought we were supposed to be together, I said, feeling a wave of insecurity. We are, he insisted, but he still looked restless. I need some air, I muttered, standing up. I headed outside toward the lake, needing a break from the overwhelming weight of the house. Silas's POV. The instincts of a wolf are tied to the pack's collective strength. When a high-ranking pair like Griff and Ravenna strengthens their bond, the surge of energy affects everyone. It's like a magnetic pull. It wasn't about anyone else. It was just my wolf reacting to the power in the air. I started to go after Seraphina, but Eleanor caught my eye. Give her a moment, she said gently. She's human, Silas. She can't feel the bond of the pack yet. To her, it just feels like chaos. Let her find her quiet place, then go to her. I nodded, sitting back down. I just hoped I could explain it in a way that didn't make me sound like a different species entirely. Chapter 19. Unknown POV. I stood hidden in the trees, watching the house. They were on edge, patrols doubling at every corner. But even the best-guarded fortress has a crack in the stone. The front door flew open, and a girl stormed out. She was beautiful, her scent pure human. She ran down to the lake, sitting on the edge of the dock and burying her face in her hands. She looked vulnerable, isolated from the pack's protection. I crept forward through the tall grass. She was so lost in her own thoughts that she didn't hear the snap of a twig. Before she could even gasp, I moved. I lunged, pulling a heavy cloak over her head to muffle her cries and lifting her off her feet. I didn't look back as I sprinted into the dark, heading straight for Malphas's camp. Trixie's POV. An hour had passed, and the silence from the lake was starting to feel heavy. I'll be right back, Gid. I'm going to go find Seraphina, I said. Be careful, Trixie, he urged, his eyes dark with worry. The perimeter is tight, but stay within sight of the guards. I searched the shoreline, my heart sinking lower with every step. Near the dock, I found her phone lying in the dirt, the screen cracked. There was no sign of a struggle, just a terrifying emptiness. I ran back to the house, bursting through the doors. Seraphina's gone, I cried. The room erupted. Silas let out a sound of pure agony, his eyes flashing a wild, desperate gold. Killian immediately took command, ordering the families to the secure upper levels. Griff came rushing down the stairs, throwing on a tactical vest and looking breathless. What happened? He demanded. A kidnapping, Killian said, his voice low and dangerous. Malphas has moved first. This is no longer a threat, it's a war. Willow's POV. Everyone upstairs, Killian ordered. His voice was cold, professional, but I could see his hands shaking. Killian, you can't just shut us away, I argued, though my voice lacked its usual bite. I was terrified for Seraphina. Willow, please, he said, stepping close and taking my hands. If our bond isn't fully settled, my focus will be split between the battle and your safety. I need to be whole to bring her back. I looked at him, seeing the alpha weight on his shoulders. Go, I whispered. But stay safe. Don't do anything reckless. He kissed my forehead, a lingering promise, before I followed the other girls to the safety of the upper floor. Xander's POV. Once the girls were secure, Killian laid out the map. Silas leads the trek. He has the strongest scent lock on her. We move in silence, we shift at the tree line, and we do not engage until Seraphina is clear. Malphas wants a throne, but he's about to find a grave. He assigned guards to stay with the women, males who were still healing or hadn't yet found their match. Protect them with your lives, he commanded. I headed to my room for my final 20 minutes. I found Nova waiting, her eyes red from crying. I didn't say a word. I just pulled her into my arms and held her as if I could shield her from the entire world. I had to survive this. For her. Chapter 20. Willow's POV. I gulped as the door opened. Killian stepped inside and closed it quietly behind him. I have to leave in 20 minutes, he told me. I nodded and sat on the edge of the bed. He walked over and gently lifted my chin with his finger. I hate the timing of this, Willow. I wanted our first night to be perfect, not rushed by a conflict, he whispered. It doesn't have to be perfect to be right, I said confidently. I want us to be fully united before you go. I love you, Killian. I love you too, he replied, pulling me into a deep, meaningful embrace. He held me tightly, the power of our bond surging between us as we shared those final, private moments, tethering our souls together for the battle ahead. Nova's POV. Xander held me close while I cried into his shoulder. I have to do my part to protect the pack, to protect you, he said gently. I hope you know that I love you, I murmured. I do. I love you too, he whispered, pressing his forehead to mine. He kissed the mark on my neck, and a wave of calm washed over me. Let's just stay like this, I whispered. We lay back, his arms wrapped tightly around me, memorizing the rhythm of each other's breathing until the clock ran out. Marisol's POV. You have to go risk your life, I said quietly. Don't think like that. Maeve exclaimed, giving me a quick, reassuring hug. I'm coming home to you. That's a promise. I'm holding you to that, I smiled. He grinned, his eyes sparking with his usual playfulness. To keep our spirits up, let's play a lightning round of Scrabble. I laughed, despite the tears. You're such a kid, Maeve. But okay, let's play. Trixie's POV. Promise me you'll stay safe, I told Gid. I'll be fine, sweetheart, he reassured me. We have to get Serafina back. The pack doesn't leave anyone behind. I pulled him into a tight hug, feeling the steady thrum of his heart. Just come back to me. That's all I care about. I will, he promised, his voice thick with a vow he intended to keep. Ravenna's POV. I woke up as the door opened. Griff was standing there, fully prepared for the march. I have to go soon, baby. The rogues are moving, he said, sitting on the edge of the bed. Griff, no, I whispered, reaching for his hand. He leaned down and kissed my forehead, then the shimmering mark on my shoulder. You're the one who keeps me strong, he whispered. Every step I take out there is for you. I love you. I love you too, he replied, holding his hand until the very last second. Ren's POV. The howl from downstairs echoed through the house. It was time. As Victor stood up, I grabbed his arm, the panic finally breaking through. Don't go yet, I pleaded. I have to, he said, his voice strained. He turned to the door, but I couldn't let him leave without being certain. Seal the bond. I cried out. Victor, make it official before you step into that forest. He froze, then was back at my side in an instant. He leaned down, his eyes glowing with a protective, golden light. He pressed his hand over my heart, and I felt a sudden, magnificent rush of warmth, the soul seal finally clicking into place. It felt like a bolt of pure, loving energy anchoring me to him. There, he whispered, his voice full of pride. Now, no matter where I am, I'm with you. A shout from the hallway urged him to move. He gave me one last, lingering look before disappearing out the door. I walked to the mirror and pulled aside my hair. A faint, glowing mark shimmered on my skin, slowly fading into a permanent silver trace. I had never felt more certain of anything in my life. I was a part of him now, and he would come back for me. Chapter 21. Silas's POV. The scentlock was strong now. I led the pack through the dense brush until we reached the mouth of a hidden cave. It reeked of the rogues. My wolf was pacing beneath my skin, desperate to reach Serafina. Approach with caution, Killian commanded through the link. Suddenly, we were surrounded. Wolves emerged from the shadows, their eyes glowing with a hostile, jagged light. Malphus stepped forward, and my heart nearly stopped. He was holding an unconscious Serafina. Killian's POV. She's just the bait, Killian, Malphus cackled through the link. He lowered Serafina gently to the ground, not out of kindness, but to show he held all the cards. The pack is what I want. Give her back, Malphas. This doesn't have to end in a field of shadows, I growled. It ends with a new alpha, Malphas replied. Attack. The forest exploded into chaos. It wasn't just a fight, it was a storm of silver and fur. I lunged for Malphas, our forms colliding with the force of a landslide. We rolled through the dirt, a blur of motion. I felt the sting of his claws, but the bond with Willow acted like a shield of pure energy, keeping me on my feet. With one final, decisive strike, I pinned him. The rogue threat ended there, in the silence of the clearing. I stood over him, breathing hard, as the remaining rogues scattered into the night. We had won the battle, but a sudden, chilling dread washed over me. Unknown POV. The Alpha had won the woods, but he had left his heart unprotected. While they fought in the cave, we moved to the house. One final strike to the foundation, and the Blackwood legacy would be finished. Willow's POV. A thunderous crash shook the pack house. The wall of the main hall buckled as 3 rogue wolves burst through. The guardians moved instantly, a blur of protective fury, while we ushered the children toward the reinforced basement. I turned back just in time to see Eleanor trying to reach the stairs. She had stayed behind to make sure every child was down. A rogue lunged, and though the guardian intercepted him a second later, Eleanor had been thrown against the stone hearth. I ran to her, Ravenna right behind me. She was pale, her breathing shallow. I could feel the life force fading from her. Eleanor, stay with us. I cried, taking her hand. Take care of my boys, she whispered, her voice like autumn leaves. Tell them I'm so proud. Tell them the pack is in good hands. The pack doctor arrived a moment later, but I already felt the stillness. Eleanor was gone. The heart of the house had stopped beating. Willow, Marisol whispered, noticing the way I was trembling. She looked at the shimmering mark on my neck, the one I had finally accepted. You're carrying the next generation, aren't you? I looked at the spot where Eleanor had just been. A small, bittersweet smile touched my lips through the tears. Yeah, I am. Griff's POV. We returned to a house of silence. The hole in the wall told the story before we even stepped inside. I pushed through the crowd in the hall and felt the world tilt. My mother lay there, surrounded by the girls. My knees hit the floor. I felt Killian's hand on my shoulder, heavy, trembling, but solid. She's gone, Griff, Killian whispered. His voice was thick, but he stood tall. He was the Alpha now, truly and fully, carrying the weight of the crown and the grief of a son. Ravenna pulled me into her arms, and for the first time since the bus ride, I let the tears fall. We had saved the pack, but we had lost our home. Killian turned toward his office, his eyes fixed on a future he now had to build alone. Willow followed him, the only light left in his darkening world. Chapter 22. Willow's POV. I chased after Killian as he headed into his father's study. I pushed the door open to find him slumped over the desk, the weight of the Alpha's crown and a son's grief finally breaking him. I stepped forward, but he didn't look up. Leave me, Willow. I need to be alone. No, I said, walking over and resting a hand on his shoulder. You've spent all night being strong for the pack. Right now, you just need to be Killian. He turned, pulling me into his lap and burying his face in my neck. I held him as he finally let out the tension of the last few days. She's gone, Willow. And I feel like I failed her, he whispered. You saved the pack, Killian. And Eleanor knew how much you loved her, I murmured, stroking his hair. And we have something of her to carry forward. Our little one. He pulled back, a small, tearful smile touching his lips as he placed his hand over my stomach. Our little one. I'll protect you both with everything I am. Silas's POV. The pack doctor was a blur of efficiency, tending to the wounded before turning her attention to Serafina and me. She's stable, Silas, the doctor reassured me as I watched Serafina sleep. The rogues used a heavy sedative to keep her quiet, but physically, she's unharmed. She fought them every step of the way. She has the spirit of a true Luna. I breathed a sigh of relief. The doctor patched up the scratches on my back, and I sat by Seraphina's bed, counting the minutes until she woke. I wanted her to know she was home and she was safe. Seraphina's POV. My eyes fluttered open to the rhythmic beeping of a monitor. For a second, the fear returned, but then I saw Silas. Silas, I sobbed, reaching for him. He caught me, pulling me into a hug that smelled like pine and safety. "You're home, Fina." "It's over," he whispered. I pulled back, looking him in the eyes. "I realized something out there, Silas. I realized that life is too short to wait. I want our bond to be official. I want everyone and every wolf to know I belong to this pack. To you." Silas smiled, but he shook his head gently. "I want that too, more than anything. But you've still got that sedative in your system, baby. I want our bond to be sealed when you're 100% yourself. Let's get you out of this hospital bed first. We have all the time in the world." I smiled, feeling a new level of respect for him. "You're right. Thank you, Silas." Later, Seraphina's POV. The doctor gave me a clean bill of health, and soon my friends were crowded around my bed. We shared a tearful group hug before the conversation turned to the new normal. "Look at our marks," Ren said, tilting her neck. Each of the girls showed off their unique bond seals. They had evolved into intricate, shimmering tattoos. "Ravenna's is a cherry blossom," Willow noted. "And Nova has a rose. Trixie has a wolf silhouette," Marisol added. "And mine is a shooting star." I moved my hair aside to show mine, a delicate pink flower that seemed to pulse with a faint light. "We're more than just friends now," Willow said softly, looking at all of us. "We're a pack." We sat in silence for a moment, thinking of Eleanor and the cost of the victory. But as I looked at my friends, I knew we were ready for whatever came next. We weren't just high school seniors anymore. We were something much more powerful. Chapter 23. Ravenna's POV. The pack stood in a silent semicircle as the trumpets played a final, solemn tribute. Eleanor's casket was lowered slowly into the earth beside her mates. I held Griff's hand tightly, feeling the tremors in his grip. Griff stood to speak first, his voice thick but steady. "My mother was the heart of this house. She showed us that a Luna's strength isn't in her claws, but in her compassion." "I love you, Mama." Killian followed, sharing a story about how she used to hide cookies for them when they were cubs, drawing a much-needed ripple of laughter from the grieving pack. As the first shovelful of earth hit the casket, the finality of it took Griff's breath away. He collapsed to his knees, and I was right there, wrapping my arms around him. "She's at peace, Griff," I whispered. "She's with Robert now." I helped him up and led him back toward the house. We spent the evening at the reception, surrounded by the warmth of the pack, dancing slowly to a song that felt like a quiet promise of a better future. Marisol's POV. The music shifted to something more upbeat, and the energy at the reception began to lift. I pulled Maeve onto the floor, needing to move, to feel alive after such a heavy day. The connection between us was buzzing, an electric charge that made the air feel like it was glowing. We danced closely, the pull of the bond making it impossible to focus on anyone else. Maeve leaned down, his eyes dark and full of affection. "I think I've had enough of the crowd for one night," he whispered. "I just want to be with you." I smiled, feeling the same magnetic tug. I was thinking the exact same thing. We slipped away from the party, heading up to our room where we could finally just be ourselves, safe and together. Willow's POV. After the service, Killian and I slipped away to the infirmary. He was quiet, his hand resting protectively over my stomach as we waited for the doctor. "So, the Alpha's instinct is telling you there's news." The doctor smiled, preparing the ultrasound. She moved the wand across my belly and 3 distinct, pulsing lights appeared on the monitor. "Willow, Killian, congratulations," she beamed. "You aren't just having one. You're having triplets." "Triplets?" I gasped, looking at Killian. He was grinning so widely I thought his face might break. 3, he whispered, his eyes shining with tears. 3 more reasons to make this pack the safest place on Earth. The doctor explained that werewolf pregnancies are much faster and more intense than human ones. "You'll need plenty of rest and constant bonding time with Killian to keep your strength up," she advised. The Alpha's energy will help nourish the little ones. When we returned to our room, the weight of the day, the loss of Eleanor and the miracle of the babies settled over us. Killian pulled me into his arms, kissing me with a tenderness that brought fresh tears to my eyes. "I'm going to be right here, every step of the way," he vowed. He spent the rest of the night holding me close, his hands never leaving my stomach. I was still a high school senior, and my life had changed in ways I never could have imagined, but as I fell asleep in his arms, I knew I was exactly where I was meant to be. Chapter 24. Nova's POV. This morning, Marisol and Maeve came downstairs with a new, calm energy radiating between them, the mark of a sealed bond. Soon after, Killian and Willow joined us, both looking relieved. "How was the appointment?" I asked. "Everything is perfect," Willow beamed. "The little ones are healthy." "Wait, little ones?" Marisol asked. Willow nodded. The doctor confirmed it. "I'm carrying triplets." The room went silent for a second before Ravenna broke the tension. "Triplets?" "Killian, that alpha strength of yours doesn't take days off, does it?" "The alpha line has always been strong," Killian laughed. "It's just how we're made." "Well," Ravenna mumbled, glancing at Griff, "remind me to keep our bond in the just talking phase for a few more years." "Girls, we need to head back today," I said, checking my phone. "We told our parents we'd be back soon, and I can't fall behind in school." Xander pouted, pulling me into a hug. "I don't want you to leave. The house is going to feel empty without you." "I'll be back before you know it," I promised. "I just need to keep my human life on track for a little longer." Trixie's POV. I told my parents I was seeing someone, which wasn't a lie, I just didn't tell them my date had fur and fangs. I drove to the pack house and found Gid's mother in the kitchen. "He's out in the treehouse, dear," she smiled. I climbed the ladder and found Gid fast asleep. I sat down beside him, watching the way his chest rose and fell. I reached out and gently brushed a lock of hair from his forehead. His eyes snapped open, glowing a soft, protective amber before settling into his usual dark brown. He reached out, pulling me down into a warm embrace. "You have no idea how much your presence changes the energy in here," he whispered, his voice thick with sleep. "The bond is humming just because you're close." "I missed you too," I giggled, snuggling into his chest. "One day," he murmured, "this will be our world every day. No more driving back and forth." "I'm looking forward to it," I said softly. We spent the afternoon just like that, safe and quiet, in our own little world above the trees. Willow's POV. The dinner with our parents and the guys had been tense, to say the least. Killian and Maeve tried their best to act like normal boyfriends, but Killian's protective instincts were hard to hide. Every time I moved, he was there, checking on me. "Willow, Marisol, can we talk to you in the kitchen?" my mom called out later that evening. We walked in to find them sitting at the island, their faces stone cold. "Is there something you're hiding from us?" my father asked. I felt Marisol's hand find mine under the table. I couldn't keep the secret anymore. The triplets were growing fast, and my connection to the pack was changing my very nature. "I'm pregnant," I whispered. The silence that followed was deafening. Then, my father's chair screeched back as he stood up. "With that boy's children? The one you just met?" he demanded, his voice shaking with fury. "I love him, Dad. And he's going to be a great father." "This is a disappointment," my mother said, her voice cold and detached. "We raised you better than this, Willow. If you've chosen this path, you've chosen to walk it without us." "What are you saying?" I gasped. "You can't stay here," my father stated. "If you're adult enough to start a family, you're adult enough to find your own roof. Pack your things." The room began to spin. The shock of the rejection, combined with the physical toll of the pregnancy, was too much. The floor rushed up to meet me, and everything went dark. Chapter 25. Marisol's POV. I gasped as Willow collapsed. I dropped beside her, shielding her from our parents' glares. "Look at what you've done," I snapped. "You can't put this much stress on her. She's carrying triplets." The silence in the kitchen was freezing. "Triplets?" my mother whispered, her face pale. "I'm moving out with her," I declared, helping Willow to her feet. "If this home doesn't have room for her and her children, it doesn't have room for me either." We packed in a blur of tears and adrenaline. Maeve and Killian arrived within minutes to help us move the boxes. Killian held Willow as if she were made of glass, his eyes glowing a fierce, protective gold. By nightfall, we were at the pack house. To help us settle in, the guys had set up a bonfire and a campout. Watching the flames, I finally felt like we could breathe again. Ren's POV. Victor wrapped a blanket around us as the fire crackled. "All right," Silas announced. "Hide and seek, werewolf style. Girls hide, we track." I ran into the darkness, searching for a spot. I ducked into one of the large tents, burying myself under a pile of sleeping bags. I even sprayed a bit of perfume around to try to mask my scent. I waited, my heart thumping, until I heard the heavy, rhythmic padding of paws outside. The tent flap rustled. A large wolf head poked inside, sniffing the air before letting out a playful huff. He nudged the sleeping bags aside and let out a happy whine. Victor stepped out of view for a moment to return to his human form and came back in a fresh pair of sweats. "Found you," he whispered, sitting beside me and pulling me into a hug. "You're too good at this," I laughed. We headed back to the fire to roast marshmallows, the tension of the day finally melting away. Trixie's POV. I hid in the corner of the treehouse, listening to the sounds of the forest. "I know you're up there, baby," Gid called from below. I heard him climbing the ladder. When he reached the top, he didn't even have to look. He walked straight to my corner and pulled me into a celebratory hug. I leaned against him, feeling the steady, powerful thrum of his heart. "I love the werewolf side of you," I whispered, looking into his amber eyes. "It's like you have this extra layer of soul." "I love you too, Trixie," he said, his voice dropping to a serious, tender tone. He leaned in, his forehead resting against mine. "I want you to know," he murmured, "that wherever we go, and whatever happens with the pack, you're my priority. Always." I pulled him closer, the moonlight streaming through the branches. We stayed there for a long time, just talking and dreaming about the future, eventually falling asleep in the quiet safety of the trees. We were starting a new chapter, and for the first time, I wasn't afraid of what came next. Chapter 26. Seraphina's POV. I woke up feeling like I was in an oven. When I opened my eyes, I found Silas's arms wrapped tightly around me with 2 heavy blankets piled on top. "Silas, wake up," I whispered, mindful of the other couple in the tent. He mumbled something and pulled me closer. I gave his shoulder a light nudge, and he jolted awake with a sheepish grin. We crawled out into the crisp morning air to find Nova already by the fire. "Good morning," she smiled. "Xander's inside starting breakfast. Bacon and pancakes are on the way." Soon, Trixie and Gid emerged from the backyard. They looked tired but wore matching, peaceful smiles. "Did you two have a good night?" I teased. "It was incredible," Trixie replied, her voice soft and full of genuine happiness. "The bond feels finally settled." "Congrats, guys," Silas said, shaking Gid's hand. The lighthearted mood broke when the guys' phones all buzzed simultaneously. They headed inside, returning moments later with grim expressions. "What's wrong?" Willow asked, reaching for Killian. He moved past her quickly, his mind clearly elsewhere. I saw Willow flinch, a look of hurt crossing her face as she stepped back. "We just got word from the National Council," Griff explained. "There's a high-level summit for all alphas and betas. We have to leave tonight." "Tonight?" Ravenna gasped. "But we just got settled." The elders will stay behind to guard the pack house, Silas assured me, taking my hand. But the council doesn't make these requests lightly. We have to go. Willow's POV. Later that night, I sat on the edge of the bed, the silence of the room feeling louder than any shout. Killian had been so distant since the phone call. I knew he was stressed about the pack, but being pushed away at the fire felt like a cold splash of water. Between the pregnancy and the rejection from my parents, I felt like my world was balanced on a needle. I just needed him to look at me, to tell me we were okay. The door clicked open. Willow. I didn't look up. You should probably get going. You wouldn't want to be late for your meeting. Don't do this, Lo, he said, sitting beside me. Not right before I have to leave for who knows how long. He reached out to pull me into a hug, but I moved away. Killian, what am I supposed to think? I asked, my voice trembling. You brought me into this world, told me I was your companion, and now that things are complicated, you can't even look at me? I've lost my family and my home for this. I need to know I haven't lost you too. You'll never lose me, he insisted, his eyes flashing with a desperate gold. I'm just terrified, Willow. Leading this pack, protecting you and the babies, facing the council. It's a lot. I'm sorry I shut down. It's a bad habit. I looked at him, seeing the exhaustion in his face. I wanted to forgive him, but the hurt was still fresh. Just go, Killian. Do what you have to do for the pack. He tried to lean in for a goodbye kiss, but I turned my cheek. He sighed, a sound of pure frustration, and headed for the door. The house felt colder the moment he stepped out. I lay back against the pillows, wondering if our bond was strong enough to survive the distance and the doubt. Chapter 27. Willow's POV. 6 months later. I waddled down the stairs to the kitchen in the middle of the night. My stomach was growling, and I had a serious craving for pickles. I pulled the jar from the fridge, but as I went to put it back, a sharp, white-hot pain shot through my core. I gasped, and the jar shattered on the floor. I didn't care about the mess. I clutched my belly as the first real contraction hit like a tidal wave. I managed to reach a chair and called out for help. Within moments, the house was alive. The pack doctor rushed in, her eyes sharp and focused. It's time, Willow, she said calmly. Elders helped me up to the infirmary. The pain was unlike anything I'd ever felt, the strength of 3 heritages fighting to enter the world. Can you get Ren? I wheezed. Ren rushed in seconds later, grabbing my hand. I'm here, Lo. You've got this. The doctor began a quick assessment. We need an ultrasound immediately. Carrying triplets is complex, and we need to see how they're positioned. She wheeled the bed into the scanning room. As the image flickered to life on the monitor, I saw the doctor's expression shift to one of urgent concern. What is it? I panicked. The firstborn has the cord wrapped, she explained quickly. With 2 more behind her, we can't risk a natural delivery. We're moving to an emergency procedure right now to ensure all 3 stay safe. I felt a rush of fear, but the doctor's steady hands as she administered the local block calmed me. As they prepped the room, I looked at Ren. Bertie, call Killian. I know things have been hard between us, but he needs to hear them. He needs to be here, even if it's just over the phone. Ren nodded, dialing as the team moved into place. A curtain was raised, but I could feel the intense pressure and the room's focused energy. Suddenly, a tiny, sharp cry pierced the air. Tears spilled over my cheeks. That's one, the doctor whispered. Ren held the phone to my ear. Willow? Willow, I'm here. Killian's voice was breaking. Killian. It's a girl, I sobbed. She's beautiful. I'm so proud of you, sweetheart. I'm so sorry I'm stuck here, he cried. A second cry, louder and deeper, followed almost immediately. A boy, Killian. We have a son too. I'm coming home as soon as the council lets us leave, I promise, he vowed. Finally, the third cry joined the chorus. I was exhausted, trembling, and happier than I ever thought possible. Another boy. They're all here, Killy. They're safe. I love you, Willow. I love all of you, Killian whispered before he had to disconnect. After the team finished and cleaned the babies, the doctor brought them to me. I felt floaty, but my heart was anchored the moment they placed the first bundle in my arms. She had Killian's dark eyes and my nose. Skylar Genevieve Blackwood, I whispered. Next was my first son, a perfect blend of both of us. Caden Orion Blackwood. Finally, the last little boy, who looked exactly like a tiny version of his father. Jace Thorne Blackwood. Perfect names for a perfect trio. The doctor smiled, checking my vitals one last time. I watched the nurses settle them into the bassinets nearby. I was tired beyond tired, but as I drifted off to sleep, I knew the conflict and the distance didn't matter. We were a family now, and nothing could ever break that bond. Chapter 28. Nova's POV. I nearly screamed when the front door burst open, but the fear vanished the second I saw him. The guys filed in, the air suddenly thick with the scent of pine and electricity. Xander approached me, his eyes glowing a deep, protective amber. I didn't wait. I threw myself into his arms, clinging to him as if he were the only solid thing in a shifting world. I missed you, I whispered against his skin. You have no idea, he groaned, his voice vibrating as he leaned in. He pressed his forehead to my soul seal, and I felt a surge of pure warmth radiate through my entire body. The pull of the bond was a physical weight now, tugging at my heart. I looked into his eyes and saw my entire future reflected there. All the doubts I'd had about being ready for this world evaporated. Xander, I breathed, taking his hand. No more waiting. I want us to be completely united. Now. He didn't need to be told twice. He led me upstairs, the air between us humming with a supernatural charge that told me our lives were about to change forever. Marisol's POV. I was in the infirmary with Willow, holding little Caden. The door flew open, and there they were. I stood up, my heart hammering. When Killian stepped forward to take his son, the look of raw, fatherly awe on his face brought tears to my eyes. Then I saw Maeve. I didn't think, I just ran. He caught me, lifting me off my feet and burying his face in my hair. The ache that had been sitting in my chest for 6 months finally dissolved. I'm never letting you go again, he vowed, his voice thick with emotion. Good, I sobbed into his shoulder. Because I won't let you. We slipped out of the room to give Willow and Killian their moment. I felt a surge of joy, not just for myself, but for the whole pack. We had survived the conflict, and now we were building a family. You ready to go home? Maeve teased, his eyes sparkling with that familiar mischief. More than ready, I laughed, taking his hand as we headed toward our wing of the house. Killian's POV. The moment I held my son, the world fell silent. I looked down at Caden's tiny face and felt a protective instinct so strong it resonated deep within my wolf. I was a father. He's perfect, Willow, I whispered, sitting on the edge of her bed. She was holding Skylar and Jace, looking exhausted but more beautiful than I'd ever seen her. I leaned in, pressing a soft kiss to her forehead. I'm so sorry for how I acted before I left, I murmured. I let the pressure of the council get to me, but I never stopped wanting you. You and these babies are my entire world. Willow looked up at me, her eyes softening as she leaned her head against my shoulder. It's okay, Killian. We're here now. We're a family. I looked at my 3 children, my future pack leaders, and knew that every sacrifice we had made to keep this pack safe was worth it. I wasn't just a leader anymore. I was a protector of a legacy. Chapter 29. Ravenna's POV. I can't believe the girls talked Marisol and me into this. I don't usually believe in the whole prom thing, but I figured if I was going to do it, I'd do it right. It took us about 3 hours to get our hair and makeup done, and by the time we descended the staircase in the pack house, I actually felt like a Luna. Our 7 companions were waiting at the bottom in black tuxedos. Griff looked incredible. He stepped forward, slipping a corsage onto my wrist and whispering that I looked beautiful. We climbed into the limo, heading toward the hotel ballroom. After the photos and dinner, I finally dragged Griff out onto the dance floor. I wrapped my arms around his neck, leaning into him as the music slowed. The connection between us was electric, a constant hum that made the crowded room feel like it was just the 2 of us. Griff leaned down, his breath warm against my neck as he leaned into our bond. I took a sharp breath, feeling that familiar rush of warmth. "Thanks for being here, Griff," I whispered. "I wouldn't want to do this with anyone else." "Always," he replied, pulling me closer. Nova's POV. Ever since Xander and I sealed our bond, he had been treating me like I was made of glass. I loved his devotion, but sometimes a girl just wants to have fun. "Come on, Nova," Xander said, pulling me toward the floor as a fast song started. "It's your prom. Let loose." I started dancing, but Xander was still being so cautious, barely moving. I spun around, huffing playfully. "You're treating me like I'm breakable again," I pointed out, hands on my hips. "You're precious to me," he said softly. "I'm a member of this pack now, Xander. I'm stronger than you think. Now, actually dance with me." He chuckled, finally dropping his guard. We spent the rest of the night lost in the music, the lights reflecting off the silver mark on my neck. For the first time, I felt like I truly belonged in both of my worlds. Willow's POV. Killian leaned closer as we stood near the edge of the floor. "You look stunning tonight, Lo." I scoffed, looking down at my dress. "I feel like I have Mom written all over me." "I'm exhausted, Killian. I probably have bags under my eyes." "None of that is true," he said firmly, taking my hands and forcing me to look at him. "Willow, look at me. You are the strongest person I know. You're the mother of my children and the heart of my pack. You are perfect to me, exactly as you are." Tears pricked my eyes. I leaned forward to hug him, the weight of the last few months finally feeling lighter. We headed onto the floor, joining our friends in the middle of the crowd. Marisol's POV. I watched Willow and Killian, a huge smile on my face. They had been through so much, and seeing them happy made everything worth it. "What's that grin for?" Maeve asked, pulling me into his arms. "I'm just happy," I said, resting my head on his shoulder. "We've actually made it." "This is just the beginning," Maeve promised, kissing my temple. "After graduation, we're starting our own chapter. I'm going to give you the life you deserve, Marisol. No more looking back." "I'm not looking back," I whispered, closing my eyes and listening to the music. "I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." Chapter 30. Graduation Day, Trixie's POV. Finally. After everything, the rogue threats, the soul bonds, and the long nights of studying, we were actually graduating. We met at my house to get ready, our gowns ready to be donned over our dresses. When we descended the stairs, the guys were waiting. It was a relief to see that our families had finally started to accept them, especially since I planned to spend my future with Gid. I caught Gid's eye. He was cradling Willow's baby girl with such tenderness. I knew right then he'd be an amazing father to our children one day. "Ready?" my dad asked. "Let's go, girls," I cheered. We piled into the bus, the music reflecting our excitement as we left the normal world behind for just a few hours to claim our diplomas. The ceremony. The gym was packed, filled with the scent of floor wax and nervous energy. When Ravenna's name was called, the section where the pack sat erupted in cheers. When it was my turn, Gid's enthusiastic shout made me beam as I shook the principal's hand. "Congratulations, class of 2016. We threw our caps into the air, a sea of green silhouetted against the gym lights. I found Gid in the crowd, his grin wider than I'd ever seen it. Willow's POV. As we walked out into the sunlight, my heart dropped. Standing there were my parents, the people who had turned their backs on me. I stepped forward, taking Skylar and Jace back into my arms, while Marisol took Caden. Killian moved to my side instantly, a protective aura radiating from him that felt like a solid wall between them and us. "What are you doing here?" Marisol asked, her voice cold. "We didn't want to miss our daughter's graduation," my mother said softly. "We aren't the girls you used to know," I snapped. My father sighed, looking older than I remembered. "We were just angry, Willow. We want to be part of your life. We want to know our grandchildren." "I can't," I said, my voice trembling but firm. "You caused me too much pain when I needed you most. I can't let you back in. Not yet. Maybe not ever." Marisol nodded in agreement. "We're a team. You didn't support her, so you didn't support me. Goodbye." We walked away in silence, the weight of the past finally lifting. Once we reached the bus, I let the tears fall. My friends circled me, a shield of sisterhood, until Killian's soothing presence calmed my heart. Later that night, the park grounds were transformed into a massive celebration. I watched the triplets playing in the safety of the pack area with the other young ones, knowing they were surrounded by a family that would never turn their backs on them. Around 11 p.m., Killian and I finally retreated to the house. I changed into one of his t-shirts, the familiar scent of him grounding me. I lay my head on his chest, listening to the steady, powerful rhythm of his heart. As he stayed close, the warmth of our bond washed over me, and for the first time in my life, I felt completely, utterly home. Chapter 31. Serafina's POV. A couple of days later, my eyes fluttered open as warm lips brushed against mine. I looked up to see Silas hovering over me with a gentle, sleepy smile. "Morning, baby," he said softly. "Good morning," I yawned, stretching my arms. "You're going to hate me, but you need to get up," he teased. "The girls are waiting. You have a wedding dress to find, and apparently, they have a very strict itinerary. Aren't you coming to help?" I asked, pulling the covers up. "Not a chance. I'm waiting for the big reveal at the altar," he said, leaning down to give me one more lingering kiss before I headed for the shower. After I got dressed, I kissed Silas goodbye and headed downstairs. The girls were waiting with mischievous smiles that made me a little nervous. They practically hurried me out the door, and the car ride was suspiciously quiet. When we arrived at the boutique, a woman at the front desk greeted us cheerfully. "We have an appointment for Serafina," Willow said, her eyes sparkling. We were led to the back, where a team was waiting. Michael, the lead stylist, had an incredible eye for fashion. "Do you have a vision, sweetheart?" he asked. "Strapless, no mermaid styles, and something that feels like me," I told him. "I'm on it. Go sit with your friends. I'll bring the magic to you." While we waited, I turned to the group. "I love you all, but Nova, will you be my maid of honor?" Nova's face lit up and she tackled me in a hug. "Of course. I've already started a Pinterest board." The stylist, Cordelia, brought out the bridesmaid options. I chose a stunning satin gown. To keep things unique, I wanted them each in a different color: silver, red, black, purple, and blue-green. For Nova, I chose a sleek, one-shoulder white gown with a delicate flower detail. I wanted my wedding to break a few traditions. Then came my turn. Michael brought out 4 options. The first was too ruffled, the second felt restrictive. The third was beautiful, but it didn't sing. But the fourth? As I stepped into the final dress and looked in the mirror, the breath caught in my throat. It was elegant, timeless, and made me feel like the Luna I was becoming. I stepped out, and the girls went dead silent before gasping in unison. "That's it," Willow whispered. "That's the one." I nodded, tears pricking my eyes. "Yeah, this is it." After finalizing the details with my parents and Silas's family over the phone, we piled back into the car. I expected to head back to the pack house, but Trixie blew right past our exit. Where are we going?" I asked. "Bachelorette party," Ravenna screamed, laughing as she turned up the music. I sank into my seat with a grin. I had a feeling the next 48 hours were going to be unforgettable. Chapter 32. Serafina's POV. I woke up with a smile. Today, at 18, I was becoming a wife. I reached across the bed, but Silas was already gone. In his place was a note. "Little Fina." The guys dragged me out early, apparently. The no-seeing the bride rule is strictly enforced by the pack. "I'm counting the minutes until I see you at the altar. Today, our souls finally become one. I love you, baby. Get some rest. We have a long flight ahead of us." Silas POV. I spent the morning in a whirlwind of prep. A steaming shower, a final breakfast with the girls, and then the salon. By 2 p.m., my hair was pinned into an elegant updo, and my makeup was flawless. When I arrived at the lake, the setting took my breath away. My father linked his arm with mine. "Ready, sweetie? Let's do this," I whispered. As the music started, my bridesmaids led the way, a rainbow of satin against the greenery. Then it was my turn. I locked eyes with Silas at the end of the aisle. He looked breathtaking in his tux, his eyes glowing with a soft, amber light. The ceremony was a blur of emotion. We exchanged vows of protection and loyalty, our voices steady despite the tears in the crowd. "I now pronounce you husband and wife," the pastor announced. "You may kiss the bride." Silas pulled me close, his hand steady on my waist. Our lips met in a kiss that felt like a collision of stars. The bond, which had been humming for months, finally settled into a deep, permanent resonance. We skipped the big reception, opting for a private getaway. A limo whisked us to the airport, where a private jet waited. Once we were airborne, we shared a celebratory toast, looking out at the clouds. "You look beautiful, Serafina," Silas whispered, pulling me into a hug. As the sun began to set over the horizon, we headed to the cabin at the back of the plane. The cabin was lit with a soft, warm glow. Silas took my hands, his forehead resting against mine. "No more distractions," he murmured. "Just us." The air in the jet felt electric, charged with the power of a finalized bond. We sat together, watching the stars from 30,000 feet, finally united in every way that mattered. My journey from a regular high school student to a Luna was complete, and as I drifted to sleep in my husband's arms, I knew our real adventure was only just beginning. Epilogue. 3 years later. Willow and Killian Blackwood. Willow and Killian were the first to officially step into their roles as the pack's Alpha and Luna. Their journey hasn't been quiet. 6 months ago, Willow gave birth to twin boys, Felix Beau and Soren Jude. Their older siblings, Skylar, Caden, and Jace, are now energetic 3.5-year-olds. While the boys are a handful, Skylar already has her father's leadership streak and keeps her brothers in line. Willow has truly flourished, proving that you can be a devoted mother and a powerful Luna simultaneously. Ravenna and Griff. Griff and Ravenna were the final couple to tie the knot, celebrating their wedding just 7 months ago. They spent a sun-drenched honeymoon in Acapulco, focused entirely on each other. For now, they've chosen to enjoy their youth and their new marriage, opting to wait a few more years before starting a family. As the pack's beta, Griff is busier than ever, and Ravenna is enjoying every moment of their quiet time together before the eventual patter of paws fills their home. Trixie and Gid. Trixie finally got her dream wedding 2 years ago, a massive, elegant affair that the pack still talks about. They spent the first 18 months of their marriage traveling and strengthening their bond. Recently, however, the timing felt right. They've officially started their journey toward parenthood and are hopeful that a new addition will be joining their branch of the pack very soon. Marisol and Maeve. Marisol and Maeve followed closely behind Willow and Killian. They were eager to start their legacy, and Marisol welcomed their first children shortly after their union. 3 years ago, they welcomed Sienna Hope and Archer Gray. The children are a beautiful reflection of Marisol's heritage, with bright eyes and a spirited nature. Maeve has stayed true to his promise, giving Marisol the stable, loving family environment she always craved. Nova and Xander. After witnessing the joy of their friends, Xander and Nova had a breathtaking wedding followed by a honeymoon in Costa Rica. They returned with more than just memories. 2.5 years ago, Nova gave birth to fraternal twins, Lyra Jasmine and Jasper Cole. The twins have been a dream, well-behaved and calm, allowing Nova and Xander to balance their pack duties with ease. Serafina and Silas. Serafina and Silas's honeymoon through the rolling hills of England and Ireland was the trip of a lifetime. Shortly after their return, Serafina realized their family was already growing. She gave birth to twins, Louis Alexander and Danielle Charlie. Their family was made complete a year ago with the arrival of their third child, Alexandra Alex Destiny. Silas remains as devoted as the day they met, never leaving Serafina's side. Ren and Victor. Ren and Victor's wedding was a beautiful cultural blend. They honeymooned in Russia, where Victor shared the stories and sights of his childhood. 2 years ago, they welcomed Dmitry Nikolai and Arya Solin. The house is about to get even louder, as Ren is currently expecting her second set of twins, a boy and a girl they've already named Zelda Noel and Cyrus Holden.